Hello, everyone. Welcome to and I quote, emergency episode of our podcast. It is Snap on Ego, and I'm joined by Chris Bootman. My name is Brad, otherwise known as Bradsifer. So, Chris, we have many things to discuss in this emergency episode because it has only been a week since our last episode. Is that correct?
Been a week. How excited is everybody? They get a double dose of us. We like to spoil our audience, but yes. There's a lot.
So you just reminded me of something. I was I very rarely interact in the general chat of the Marvel Snap Discord, right?
Oh, I've never.
And I did. I think yesterday or the day before, and someone replied to me and said, "Hey, it's that guy that does the bi-weekly podcast with the other guy." Verbatim, that's what he said. And I'm like, hello, I am Guy.
You should change your Twitter bio to say that.
I am Guy that does podcasts with other guys.
And check it out, everybody. Brad is part of the 1000 Club on Twitter now.
What's up?
Yeah, but hey, all you guys are missing out if you're not following Brad. Go follow him. Where can they follow you at, Brad?
Oh, you can follow me on Twitter at Bradsifer. Also, if we're going to be interjecting news and stuff like that, not only am I in the 1000 Club for the second time on Twitter. Actually, no, technically the third time. So I had an old account years ago. I had like 3,000 followers on that, but it was like, I didn't do anything on that account. It's just like I had it for like almost a decade. So like I just grew followers. So deleted that one and then came back as Bradsifer and then got to 1,000. And then there was this giant bot purge where bots were way worse on Twitter. I lost like 400 followers instantaneously, along with like everyone else. It was also the purge of like all the inactive accounts. And secondly, I am also now the host/co-host of the Can't Stop Snapping podcast. So if you loved listening to me on this podcast and any other podcast you ever heard me guest on, or if it's the Pioneer Perspective with Magic, you will hear me on yet another podcast that is going to be a bit different in, I guess, tone. That's the vibe of Can't Stop Snapping is, from what I've been on it, is pretty different from how I am with like you and stuff like that. I try to remain consistent in my viewpoints. But yeah, I'll still be talking Snap, and I'll be guesting with Teddy Ninja, who is a
good guy. I enjoy his content. He covers like decks that I don't see other people covering, or he'll put like twists on them and stuff. And I like how he explains things. But this is something I'm not privy to. When's the first episode? When are you guys dropping it?
We are working on getting the schedule out right now. We just had all of the all of the accounts and stuff like that just got transferred to us. I had to log into all of those, and we're trying to figure out what we're going to do with where the podcast is going, because Can't Stop Snapping is no longer the official podcast of Marvel Snap Zone. That has actually gone now to what's it called? Because that agreement
Snap
ended.
Judgments.
Yeah, before it was handed off to us from Michael, that agreement had already come to an end, and they already agreed with Snap Judgment, so there wasn't even an opportunity for myself and Teddy to be like, hey, you want to keep us? Which, but whatever. So we're either going to do a separate YouTube channel, or we're going to do it split between Teddy's YouTube channel and mine. We haven't quite figured it out. It's looking like it's most likely going to be just an entirely dedicated separate YouTube channel, which, hey, maybe we'll do that for this one too at some point. I don't know. I don't know what the logistics of that, what makes it better. Like, so did you see what's it called? Did you see Dexter talk about this? Like his podcast with Dara is not on his channel anymore. It's on Dara's channel.
Oh, I thought so. I'm subscribed to both of them, and they have the same thumbnail. So I'm just like, I thought I noticed it. I thought they were like alternating. I thought they were going back and forth. Yeah,
so it was originally just going to be on Dexter's channel, and I was watching a VOD of one of his streams, and he was saying, he's like, we're either going to completely stop, or I'm going to take, or it's going to go to Dara's channel, and maybe it might come on the channel for VODs, because he's like, the dedicated slot for my schedule, putting in the podcast is not worth it. It's not doing well enough to justify taking up a video slot that something else would get 3 times as many views on my channel. So we're probably going to move it. So I find that interesting, right? I don't know logistically, what's best?
I've thought about that. Like for all of you aspiring content creators out there, something that YouTube looks at is average watch time. So like something that's, much longer than your average content can screw with your metrics. I personally haven't seen too much of a change. So I'm just like, let's do it. But if you start tanking my channel, Brad, we're doing something else. But no, I have thought about maybe like a clips channel, right? Where we segment it off and put it over there for the people who just want to hear about a certain topic or something. So that's something, we're busy and got to figure out, again, the logistics and all that. But yeah.
Which wouldn't be too hard. My editing would take a little bit longer. So what I'd have to do is like, I would render the entirety of one episode, right? Which our episodes usually range between an hour to an hour and a half. Very rarely we've hit around the 2 hour mark. Mm-hmm. And just so you know, for anyone that does editing for a living or like has a background in that, like I do, when it comes to like film and stuff like that, the pain of rendering shit on Premiere Pro. For like anything that's of any substantial length with any overlays or edits and stuff like that, because it renders everything. And if you have very high def images, like card images that I put on the podcast and stuff like that, I always I'm very anal about that. Like it needs to be like the best quality I can possibly make it in terms of like, resolution and shit. So when I have like a 4K image of a card, that's just that I have scaled down, but in reality it's like a 8.8 megabyte card like image or whatever, which is massive for an image size, by the way. And I have like 7 of those in like this segment. That's all these overlays and like little graphics and shit like that. Yeah. And for a 2 hour like episode, it ends up taking me like 7 hours to fucking render it. So then I'll have to do that. And then I'll have to like splice up into segments and then render those individually. And then those will each probably take like 2-3 hours to render those. So if we did the clip thing, I will kill myself.
Yeah, there you go. No, I was just, I messaged you the other day because my Premiere, when I'm editing YouTube videos, it'll just get hung on 100%. And sometimes after like 20 or 30 minutes, I'm like, did this just freeze? And I've Googled it and all sorts of stuff. But anyways, if you guys need editing tips, maybe we'll start an editing tips channel too. You can render those videos. But yeah.
Welcome to the Can't Stop Clipping editing stuff. We're here talking about Premiere Pro, and there's a new update coming out for Premiere Pro 24, and we're going to be talking about that today. And there's going to be new things available to all of you wonderful creators at home. This wonderful overlay we want to talk about real quick is the actual snipping tool overlay, which does nothing different than the old cutting tool, but it has a really cool name. And instead of it being a little razor image, it's now a pair of scissors because, we have to be aware of people's triggers, and we can't allow a razor to be the image of a.
That's interesting. Software. Interesting stuff. But let's jump into it. So, you guys, we're gonna go over some controversy in the community about the card downgrades. But first. Brad and I have something to admit to you for those of you who aren't following us on Twitter. It's also controversy. That's also controversial, but we're going to justify it. We're going to deal with our cognitive dissonance here. But not only did one of us, but both of us hit infinite already this season using Galactus decks. Brad did it first though, so he was a bad influence on me. So Brad, how was your climb this season with Galactus?
It was incredibly easy. And I want to preface this by saying I don't think it's not because of Galactus being too strong. Now we already know that there is a change coming, very likely in the upcoming patch to Galactus, and so I'm sure next week when we do our normally scheduled episode, we will talk about that. But there was a lot of bounce. There was a lot of Sarah control, and there was quite a bit of people trying out the new Ghost Spider card in various move strategies, whether it's dedicated move decks in its entirety or decks that are trying to utilize a move engine with this card. Doesn't really matter. Galactus kind of feeds off of these kind of decks pretty efficiently, ones that want to do a lot of shit with a lot of little things, right? And by playing Galactus, it was just phenomenal to just farm all of these matchups. And I ran into some mirror matches here and there, but I think the ones I ran into the most were those 3 aforementioned decks that I just said, as well as High Evolutionary. And then Galactus should be maybe the 5th most common deck that I saw. But my list, which I know you made one small change to my list that I posted on Twitter, which we'll talk about in a second. But my list was your standard, like Yondu. You know what? Fuck. What was my list in its entirety? Hold on, because I off the top of my head, I know I was being cool. I'm the cool kid around playing Iron Lad.
Yeah, yes. Jeff and Iron Lad. You're a Jeff fan
because Jeff is the greatest card in existence. Yeah. I am going to, dude. I don't mean to keep having small little asides and stuff, right? But I deserve so much credit, and I'm gonna ride that high of being as right as I was about Jeff when so many people. And I guessed it on Can't Stop Snapping talking about Jeff. I made a video on it. I tweeted about it, talked about it on here, and I think everyone besides you, because you were at least going like, could be, yeah, I can see it. Everyone else was like, there's no way he's going to be as good as you're making him out to be. I'm like, he is going to be the best card of not only the month, but one of the best cards we've had ever. And it's it looks so pedestrian and being a 2/3 that just
part
moves.
Of the controversy too that we're about to get into in a little bit. But
yes.
But yeah, I really do like Jeff in this Galactus list. I remember it catching me off guard playing against Galactus, which pissed me off. But he's perfect. He's
great.
Because you could throw him out there as bait, right? Like, especially with my list. So those of you who are unaware of me and what I'm all about, I didn't use Yondu. I used my boy Howard because we got Brad just throwing Iron Lad out there all willy nilly, just hoping to hit his stuff. I'm just sure thinking it. You got to
remember though, when you click on your deck, this is for everyone that wants to play Galactus or Iron Lad in general, especially with the Galactus shell. You're running Chavez, right? So when you look at your deck, it might say 5 left, but you actually have a 1 in 4 chance of hitting a card. And then you think of, okay, what effects am I looking for? Sometimes it'll be turn 4, right? And then I have a hand full of other stuff, like I have Galactus in my hand, and then I have 5 cards left in my deck. One of them is Chavez, and then 2 of them are Wave and Electro, and I'm trying to get Galactus out on turn 5. So I'm playing out Iron Lad going, okay, I have a 50-50 shot of hitting one of my ramp spells to go ahead and, spells, too much fucking magic. One of my ramp cards. See, now I'm talking like a fucking green player. Gotta get my ramp spell. But yeah, like Iron Lad is phenomenal. And of course, the same thing is to be said about if you hit Galactus. It is so great. It feels so good.
Yeah. It's great for a variety of reasons. Like, I love it because, like, so a few things. Okay, first I'll talk about why I love Jeff in the deck. First off, it's like, it's a decoy, right? I can fill up lanes and stuff like that and kind of throw them off guard, even though they know I can move Jeff, right? But I'll say this, as I ranked up, because I only used Galactus from like 95 to 100 really, but every time I lost was because Jeff was not in my hand and it would have won. So I would snap, they snap back, right? And they had the turn 5 Spider-Man, but they had more power on the lane. You know what I mean? And if I was able to Jeff, I probably would have won like a lot of those. So Jeff is great. But
I mean, that's how I had Infinite. My 8 cuber, I was at 98, 6 out of 7 cubes, got an 8 cuber, because what happened was it was a mirror match against another Galactus player, and it was Death's Domain, random location that didn't make a difference in terms of the board state, and then it was Kiln, and they waived on 3. I had Galactus in hand, and I'm like, I know they have Galactus on hand too. And I'm trying to think, I'm like, are they going to try and go for the Kiln, just like, call their shot, the 50-50, and then like, just win off of like no one can play anything? So I'm like, okay, I'll call their bluff. And I also did Galactus there because I'm like, I can do that too. So we both did it. We both Galactus there. No one plays anything on turn 5. I stay in, and this is now a game of chicken. I have Jeff in hand, and I'm like, I'm not going to play on turn 5. I got to play on turn 6. And then I'm like, do they have Jeff? I'm like, look, it's an 8 cuber. I'm going to throw it on Jeff. If they want to play in and play chicken and just go for the tie. Yeah. And they didn't have Jeff. And I got an 8 cuber off of it, got the win, and then immediately shot to Infinite. And I was like, oh, this is so fucking awesome.
I'm gonna admit something here that I've yet to say publicly, but I had more boss this season than I've ever had in my life. I have been somebody who has sat there on Twitter saying like, I wish I had a bot problem, right? I wish, but my last 8 cuber to hit Infinite was against a bot. It was, by the way, it was a close ass game. It was a close game.
It was the cheating bot. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
You know?
There was a couple times I had to retreat against bots. I have two monitors. I have the bot list up. Yeah, and I'm like, it's a bot, and I just didn't get my hand that you need for Galactus, right? Because usually you can mess with them and stuff. But this last one, they had Patriot and Khazar, and I won the tiebreaker by 1. And I got 8 cubes to win it. But yeah, I did have a lot of bots. And now I'm just waiting for Conquest mode. But anyways, here's the other thing too. So the reason I started running Galactus, so yeah, Brad talked about it. I'm like, yeah, what Brad's saying makes a lot of sense. Like Galactus is a great counter for what everybody's playing right now. What happened to me was I was ranking up like crazy with the bounce move deck with Ghost Spider and just bouncing. I love it so much. I made a video on it. But then cloning VATS came out. Right? And I'm like, I need a cloning VATS thing. I was running bounce because that's still pretty good, right? You get multiple kitties that are just coming back and stuff like that. But then everybody's running destroy decks, right? So they can just keep blowing stuff up. So I run destroy, but when I play it, I never draw destroy cards. So then I was just like, screw it. I'm going Galactus, and that's when I started going forward. But I was messaging you on Discord, showing you my freaking bar with no name games. One of them,
we
both
was great,
had
those games. It was great. Yeah,
pulling people in with Doc Ock.
Yeah, I love going bar with no name, Galactus, and Doc Ock. Just like, look, man, if you get it, you get it, right?
Yeah.
Especially if it's one of those things you're like, come on, Shang-Chi, pull down Shang-Chi.
Yeah. Right.
This was my fastest infinite. Also, not only was it my fastest infinite, it was a reasonable climb. I started the season at 63, and that night on the new season starting the reset, I was at 63. I played maybe a handful of games. I finished the night at 67. The next morning, I'm working from home, and my job that I've been doing for a while now is grading papers for standardized testing. And when it's the same prompt over and over again has been for the last 3 months. Doesn't take me that long to do things, so like I can just like grade a paper, play a game of Snap in between. It was pretty easy, I just did that for like the entire morning, and I just kept going up, kept climbing. I flew through the 70s and 80s, and then once I got to the 90s, I basically I only had a couple of hurdles of like maybe like I would get up to like 97, 98, whatever. I made a dumb misplay, lost an A-cuber, and I'm like, okay, I need to go get food, got lunch, took a break for like 30 minutes, came back, and then I went right back to Infinite. It was awesome. Like it was a really cool little experience for me, because I'm seeing all these people being like, I made it to Infinite in 2 minutes, because they were 140 the season before, and I was like,
yeah. So those of you who don't know, there was a bug because they changed Infinite, how it like resets, but anybody post Infinite, it's screwed up. So it only subtracted 30, because previously, if you hit Infinite, it would automatically take you to 70. It would just automatically take you there. But now, so even if you were like ranked like 3, 4, 500, like some of these crazy grinders do, this time it was bugged, so it only took them down 30 regardless of where they were. So people like Educated Collins, Lambie series, and all them, they started in Infinite. So yeah, Brad got real tired real quick. I was like not on Twitter as much, or I would have been just as annoyed for people saying, hey, I'm already Infinite.
Yeah, it was like, I made a tweet where I was like, okay, we get it. The joke was very funny the first 30 times I saw it. You can stop now. Like, look, I get it. You're more than welcome to make like jokes and stuff like that. I thought it was funny when I genuinely thought it was funny when I first saw it a couple times. But like, here's the thing. If you're a content creator, right, and you're in the same space, and you're in this little bit of bubble, right, as far as social media is concerned, and you're surrounded by like-minded individuals in terms of like we all play the same kind of games, we all follow each other for the same reasons, stuff like that. There's a lot of the same content creators in this space. You should have seen 7 of those tweets already. Why are you choosing to be the 8th person to do it?
Yeah,
I'm that way when it comes like in everyday life. If I see someone do something already before me, even if I had the idea independently first, I was like, not doing it. Yeah. It's not original anymore.
In the same vein, just the same thing is TikTok, right? People steal content on TikTok so much, to steal jokes and stuff like that. And like, so I'll like see a TikTok, I'm like, that's hilarious. Then all of a sudden I see 5 more doing the exact same thing. I'm like, now the whole thing's not funny. None of it's funny. I don't know who the original person is. Was the first person I laughed at stealing it? You know, whatever. But anyways, my climb was pretty easy so far too. And here's my theory. This season pass card, Ghost Spider, very fun, interesting card, but Move is one of the most complicated deck archetypes, right? And I flew through the ranks because everybody was trying to learn Move and just completely botching it. Like, I was just dying. I was like, you guys, I can't tell like how good Ghost Spider is because people are just so bad at Move. Like, I said it in my video, like, playing Move Bounce, because Bounce is a difficult archetype to get used to. You got to get your reps in. And now that you're combining Move, like, you really got to sit there and just like, look, you could do some really cool combos though. Like, just like, putting like Human Torch down on Angela and then Ghost Spidering it over and then bouncing it back and stuff. Like, you do some cool stuff. But yeah, like, the other thing that's kind of worrisome for me is, I've always said this, when people say, oh, I hit infinite with this deck and they don't give you any context around their ranking, like if I've always brought up this question. If I'm rank 99 and I switch decks, like, I hit infinite with Galactus, but I only used it for the last 5 ranks, right? You used it for like most of your climb. There's a clear difference
the
there.
entirety of the climb. I only used Galactus.
Yeah. So
the entire time.
This season, I've had to ask that additional question. When people are saying, hey, I hit infinite with this deck, now I'm like, what rank did you start at? And some people are like, I started at like 96. You know what I mean? Because there's a big difference. And people, for all of you listening out there, like, I always try to say this in my content, like, be very cautious when you're seeing what good decks are and stuff like that. You need to know the context around it. How many bots did they face? How many ranks did they climb with it? You know, because I could take like a garbage deck and go from 99 to 100. That doesn't mean, you know, I should advertise that I hit infinite.
You just need one 8 cube win, right?
Yeah. Right.
And especially if you're playing a deck that's like, it maybe not a bad deck, but a less seen deck than most people are used to, and that surprise factor alone. Like, think of a deck that just randomly plays a Heimdall on turn 6, and it's not a move deck, for example, right? Yeah. That will throw people off, and that can steal an A-Cuber. Does that mean that deck is one of the best in the game? No, it means you're playing a deck that's very surprising to the other person across from you, and if that deck were to be played more with more reps in, more games, and people became more familiar with, like, I need to be wary of this potential entire shift over and then play around that as well, then I don't think it'd be as good of a deck. So context does matter. Like, in the sense of why I climbed with Galactus this season in that first day is because, again, a lot of bounce, a lot of people trying out the new move deck, and a lot of high Evo, right? And, you know, when it's those are kind of matchups where you can farm pretty efficiently, right? High Evo might be the one that's a little bit more close to 50-50 because they also have Spider-Man and stuff, but I have Jeff and they don't. That deck usually doesn't run Jeff because it's a little too tight on cards and your card selection because of the High Evo package. And Doc Ocking, you know, their Hulk and A-Bomb down, right?
Yeah.
And then you're like, I have Shang-Chi.
I never got lucky with it. I'd pull all their big cards, but I just didn't have Ramp or Galactus to, you know, really benefit from it.
That's where you boomer snap them, even if you don't have it. And you're like, you're just like, leave. I knew you were going to leave.
That's what I'll try. But yeah, so speaking of like decks and being cautious, before we get into this next topic, things just keep coming to me. Last week, like, I just wanted to just log off Twitter for the day. People were arguing with me about how bad hella discard decks are.
On Twitter?
On Twitter, yes.
People were arguing with you on Twitter?
Those actually motherfuckers that we called out last time. Apparently people didn't get the fucking message, right?
They didn't watch the podcast.
I was explaining how hella discard decks are just bad, right? Like, because I was using it in Living Tribunal. At first it was good, and then I remembered why I hate them so much. They're inconsistent. But then I go to Untapped. There are thousands and thousands of games. Like, we have a big sample size for hella decks. They are below par on cube rate, below par on win rate, like with thousands of games. I'm like, you guys, no matter which way you slice it, hella decks are bad. And some actually fucker comes in. He's like, well, actually, I hit infinite with hella this. I'm like, good for you. Good for you. The majority of people playing Hella decks, and then the arguments comes in like, oh, well, maybe you just don't know how to pilot it. No, somebody's going to get lucky enough to hit infinite with a fucking Hella deck, but they're below par by every single standard. So I put out a challenge to everybody. I said the first person to win Infinity in Conquest with a Hella deck, so that's 5 straight games, I will donate $100 to a charity of your choice. So anybody listening, do it. Go for it. Like at first I was like, I'll bet $100. I'm like, nah, I don't want to give some jerk $100. We'll do it for charity. As long as it's like a good charity, not some weird like, bad charity. And there are some out there, you know what I mean? So we'll see. We'll see if anybody can pull that off. But yeah, I was looking at the stats because I'm like, am I doing something wrong? Is there a better build? I'm like, oh wait, no, they all freaking suck. Where is it? Do you have Untap pulled up?
Nope, not at the moment. I just closed it.
Here, there we go. Yeah, last 30 days. Because yeah, it goes latest patch, last 30 days. And we'll do 70 to 99. And where is it? So yeah, with 1,000 games played. What the hell? Okay, there is one that has a 53% win rate. I'm seeing
What's
now.
What's the cube rate?
The cube rate is 0.58. They can get high cube rates because when you pull them off.
How many games? Yeah, how many games are?
So this one's 1,000 games. Mm-hmm. That's 1,000. So wait, pool 3 plus. Wait, 3,000 plus. If I do the player collection level up to 3,000 plus, it goes down to 51% win rate and cube rate at 0.23. And then it falls off. So if you're series 3, if you're not playing against people with higher collection levels, it's very, very good. But after that, it drops way, way down. And just to give you guys some perspective, you go to the meta tier list, that one's at 51 and a 0.23. The top decks are at 55%, 56%, 53%, 54%. So yeah. So if anybody wants to take me up on the challenge, go for it. It's just too random. There's too much RNG. That's why I love Howard. All right. There were a couple games when I didn't have Howard and I just threw down Iron Lad and got lucky and hit Galactus, and it feels nice. It feels nice. But it's the same as like the Hella dopamine hit, right? Like when you're actually able to pull it off, like it's like feels so good.
I feel like the Iron Lad thing's a bit more consistent.
Really? Than Hella?
Well, because again, it's not just about hitting Galactus. It's hitting any of your effects. The only ones that I can say that kind of sucked was hitting Death and then Shang-Chi in most situations. Everything else, I was pretty content with hitting and was like, okay, we can work with that because like you hit like Electro to ramp, you hit Spider-Man to like just shut off that lane for the next turn, which maybe forces them to pigeonhole into a different lane that maybe you can Galactus in later and have the advantage on. Hitting Jeff was actually really fucking sweet with that because now I have a 4/6 that can move. It's like having a vision basically. Or hitting a Doc Ock was always pretty damn good as well. So like, yeah, all of your effects are so high impact that Iron Lad has just made sense in the deck for me to like try. Yeah. So yeah.
I never did this. If you hit Null with Iron Lad, he get buff.
Yep.
That's pretty dope. I need to try that.
Yes, you do. Because I would do that on. So if I had a game where I was in a single lane, if like in the mirror, for example, I'd be like, I have Death in hand. And I have 2 cards left in my deck. One of them is Null. I'm going to throw on this Iron Lad, go for the 50-50 and go Death and Null and then maybe Jeff at the same time. And I'm like, look, if I hit the Null and they don't have it, actually, even if they did have it, I'd get the win because it's added on in addition to his base power.
What was great was playing against Destroy decks. I beat so many of them because they thought their Death was just going to win it. I'm like, Galactus decks run Null, right? Like a lot of the Destroy decks were not running Null. You know what I mean? There was one that was running Null, and but they didn't have Death because I Doc Ocked it, so that was an 8-cuber. But anyways, let's get into the hot topic. Not the store at the mall, but what's going on with the series downgrades. All right, so For those of you unaware, they announced what was last month that series downgrades are going to be completely inconsistent. All right. They didn't word it like that.
There's a kind way to put it. Yes.
Yeah, they didn't word it like that. But previously, we had a schedule. We had a schedule since the start of the token shop. We had a schedule. Series 5 will downgrade in X amount of months to Series 4, then it'll downgrade to Series 3, okay? Series 5 is 6,000 tokens, Series 3 is 3,000 or Series 4 is 3,000, and Series 3 is free, all right? Used to be able to do 1,000, now it's kind of weird. I don't know. Like, you can, like, pin something, and then you get a free Series 3 card, or you can, like, buy it if it's still pinned. Whatever. Well, last month they announced, hey, we're changing things up. We're going to not downgrade things on a set schedule. We're going to downgrade them as we see fit. All right? They say this might mean we take things straight down from Series 5 to Series 3. Something might go from Series 5 to 4 within a month. You know, some things might stay in Series 4 longer, right? So people got really ticked off last month because Null and Darkhawk were scheduled to drop down to Series 3, all right? These are two cards that have been around since December or January. So it's been like 6 months, all right? And now they just announced this new season that the cards that they are dropping are Snowguard and Stegron are going to Series 4. Shauna is going to Series 3. Okay? People live it again because Darkhawk and Null are not dropping down. But also, Jeff was scheduled to drop from Series 5 to Series 4. Okay? And yeah, people are upset about this. All right? So, here. Well, I gather my thoughts after explaining all that. What's your take? Because there's been a reaction from the community, or even maybe explain what you've seen from the community about this and all that.
Yeah, so I made a tweet about this, like a little thread thing, which I actually kind of want to address a couple of the responses that I got to it, because I think they're relevant. And I'm not trying to call anyone out by this, both in what my thread is as well as like who replied to me, because I think context from every side of it, matters. I said, I understand being critical of games that you love. It's perfectly natural and justified. I'm going to repeat that again, just so people can hear what I fucking opened this line with yet again.
Yeah.
I understand being critical of games that you love. It is perfectly natural and justified. Okay, now that we're all on the same page. However, I'm incredibly disappointed in a large amount of Snap creators seemingly fear-mongering the community regarding any and every change that happens in the game. Flexible series drops are apparently a part of a bigger change coming soon. This is what Second Dinner has told us as well as the community in general. And as someone with eyes on the inside more so than the average player, Chris is in on this with me in this regard, I can say that there is a lot of cool and exciting things happening in the game, which makes my fellow content creators that have the same insight I do as well as Chris, feeding into scare tactics for more clicks is extremely disappointing. They know what's coming as well, yet they'd rather get more exposure by being overly negative. Yes, there are negative things going on in Snap. Let's repeat that. There are negative things happening in Snap. But Second Dinner has shown to make things work in the past. Everyone needs to voice concerns in a healthy way, allow Second Dinner to show us what is in store as they make the game evolve for the better. And then I shouted out Cozy, Nina as Noob, and you, Chris, as being positive voices in the game. There are way more creators than that, by the way. The reason I did not tag every fucking person I could think of that is a positive voice in the game is because eventually I'm going to leave out some people and you're going to start going like, I can see who he's talking about in the tweet. So my thing on this is very simple. You have every fucking right, and you are completely justified as an enjoyer of Snap to be upset about the flexible series drops. I completely agree that it's not the best thing for the game. I voiced that exact concern back when they announced it, both on this podcast, on Twitter, and my personal channel, especially the idea of them saying, if the meta's healthy, we won't just do a series drop this month. I was so against that from the get-go, all right? So that's, again, out of the way. You are allowed to feel angry about that, and you should. However, there is a difference, because I'll put this for example. Okay, someone replied to the part where I tagged Cozy and stuff and said, Cozy heavily criticized the new drop, lack of, and schedule. Rightfully so. They gave no warning for Darkhawk. You're drinking some Kool-Aid thinking future changes will justify it. We shall see. But it doesn't change the fact that Darkhawk not dropping was really shitty of them. And there are other comments like this saying, this is a bad thing. Why are you defending them? Did I fucking say that it's not? I said there are negative things going on. The flexible series drop is one of them. They have told us, being second dinner to us as the community, that it is part of a larger change. So I said, in that same thread, we should put the burden of proof upon them to show us that these changes are for the better in the long run, while at the same time voicing your concern as a member of the community. That does not mean, however, what I've been seeing from several content creators using special and very precise language that is correlating to fear-mongering tactics and scare tactics to the community to rile up and get more of a reaction and fuel the anger and frustration that already exists to a more heightened state for higher interaction levels. That is what is going on for most of these creators. Cozy pointing out, and many of the creators like him, pointing out the negative aspect of the flexible series drop and being critical of it is not the same thing as using fear-mongering tactics to rile up your community and drive more engagement. Those are fucking entirely different things. Different. Okay? And I need people to understand that. If you reply to my tweet saying these things or have this opinion, or you saw my tweet or saw this thing and had the same sentiment, look, this is what I'm trying to tell you. They're not the same thing. You have every right to be upset about Darkhawk not going down to Series 3 at this point, because frankly, he should have. And yes, there's the argument that everyone has tokens at this point. You can just fucking buy the Darkhawk. But then that goes back into the problem that Second Dinner has also created this problem for themselves because of the big bads. It is entirely the fault of the introduction of big bads. And I'll say why, and then I'll give it to you, because I know I've been talking for a little bit. By having the big bads introduced in Marvel Snap and making tokens, they're getting better with this. But initially, and for the most part, tokens being a fairly scarce item and a very high monetized item in terms of what the dollar amount per token kind of is when you look at bundles, things like that, and what the norm is, what the median or the mean is of these things, right? So by introducing these two things and saying X cards, which are there 4 of them now, will always be Series 5. People sometimes say they call it Series 6 because they're always stuck at 6,000 tokens. There'll always be 6,000 tokens, which means, economically speaking, most people accept that that is the only and best usage and investment of your tokens at that price level. At 6,000 tokens, that is the price level you should be spending on big bads because they won't depreciate in value. Meanwhile, people will look at cards like Jeff, Darkhawk. You can even be looking at things like Stegron and Howard for like cards that like either they or even Null. Cards that are higher up in the power scale, right? Or even kind of like, just above average, like a Jeff or a Stegron. And they go, it's not worth me to get the 6,000, or even maybe it is worth it, right, to get Darkhawk at 6,000 when he was, for example, right? They're like, I'd rather wait and hold on to my tokens because now there's 2 things that's the issue. A, they want to just hold off and get the best value possible for a card, if that means waiting, like Darkhawk Series 3. And B, we don't know when the next card is going to be a big bad. We didn't know High Evolutionary was going to be a big bad until he was officially announced from Second Dinner. People kept asking, leading up to like the leak and stuff like that of the card, and like people kept asking, like, "Hey, is this gonna be a big bad? Is this gonna be a big bad?" And people were speculating he would be. And then a day or 2 before he was supposed to come out, they're like, "He's a big bad," and it's like, you didn't know that. And if they wait so long to tell you that X card come out will be a big bad, like for example, Gore the God Butcher, maybe won't be a big bad because he's not as prevalent of a character because he was only in that one movie and then fucking died. Spoiler, if you haven't seen the goddamn Thor movie at this point in time in the year 2023, our fucking Lord. But Gore, similar to like a Knoll, is a huge entity of a person and character where if they just said he's a big bad, I wouldn't even be like, I mean, I fucking guess I get it because they can do that. They can just say it's a big bad if they really want to. Yeah. They don't have to adhere to their own rules because they're the ones that make them. So that it makes this awful tug of balance in terms of what people do with their tokens. And frankly, the entire token system, the shop system, the card acquisition system in general, I think needs an entire overhaul. Big Bad should be eliminated from the game in general, or they should have something else that makes other cards way more accessible to get in the first place. This is just... it's a net negative overall for Second Dinner. So don't fucking sit here and come at me and be like, I'm a bootlicker for a fucking corporation.
Yeah, right?
I'm being critical of this as well, but I'm not fucking fear-mongering you in the sense that, like, this is the worst thing ever. You should leave the fucking game. Yeah. Do what you want. I don't fucking give a shit. I don't know you. Do what makes you happy.
What you do with your time. Yeah, like, so, okay. So, yeah. So, to defend myself too, because I get like the shill thing. It's like anti-vaxxers acting like I'm getting paid by Big Pharma. Like, check it out. Like, here's all the places where fucking Second Dinner fucked up. All right, they like just to like I am all about avoiding headaches, right? Like my beautiful girlfriend, we've been together for I think going on 8 years now. We hardly ever fight because I avoid headaches like I'm fucking Neo in the Matrix. Second Dinner should have dropped Null and Darkhawk and then announced the shit. All right,
I agree.
The flexible series drop. They should have done that. That was whoever decided not to do that. Like I hope people are like razzing them every day. Hopefully they didn't get fired for that decision. Probably still there because it happened again, right? Like that was just bad. That was just bad,
oh,
right?
And then the fucking stupid ass people are going about the bundle thing. Like, this is why they're not jumping because it's the $30 bundle. Bitch, they've done this every single time for cards. It's just a random ass bundle. It's a horrible value, by the way. It is a horrible value compared to all the other bundles that come out. Yeah. But you know who's going to fucking get it? This dumbass, because I like the pretty cards.
Yeah. That one's a good. So it's a Darkhawk bundle for $30. So if you don't have Darkhawk, you can basically buy him for $30. Which, by the way, you're getting a deal based on how much the tokens are quote unquote worth. If you do the math, that's actually cheaper.
6,000 is around $100. So
so it would be $50. So you're saving $20. But anyway, so Second Dinner screwed up there, right? But they've done a bunch of other things, and I used to rant about the card acquisition system and everything like that. Once your Series 3 complete, it's very dull. But like something else I was just thinking about. Think about what the top deck has been for the last month, maybe longer, that they actually had to nerf. Stature. The Stature Darkhawk deck. So forget about Darkhawk for a second. Stature dropped from Series 5 to Series 4, and everybody bought up Stature, right? Why the fuck have people not bought Darkhawk by now? I just don't get it. It's been 6 months. Like somebody replied to me on Twitter. They're like, oh, I was gonna buy him. They were arguing with me. They're like, I was gonna buy him, but I was like, oh, I'll just wait a few months. Listen to me, my beautiful listeners. I love you all so much. But if you're waiting a few months for a card, you clearly don't think it's that fucking good. You don't think it's a meta-defining card if you're willing to wait 3 months for it.
Or you just don't care about meta-defining cards, and that's also okay. Yeah. That's perfectly fine. They're totally your fucking made-up arbitrary number of tokens and monetization practice of a fucking video game that you can choose to do whatever the fuck you want with. But hey, you also can't have your cake and eat it too, right? You can't fucking be like, I'm going to wait this long because it's not that important to me, but also raise your pitchforks because you can't have the card now. They're both problems. It's both sides of problems.
So, to your point about the content creation and stuff, my issue is, and listen, my mental health as a recovering drug addict is so fucking important to me, and part of it is recognizing my own negativity biases. My brain is fucked, and I can only remember the negative things, right? I have dealt with depression, I'm on antidepressants and stuff like that, but through things like cognitive behavioral therapy and all these other beautiful things, I have to practice remembering the positive things. That's my issue with the community. I'm not defending Second Dinner and the shit they that they've done, but nobody celebrates the fucking wins, right? When they up the token rate, when they gave us, like, do you remember? I remember in December, right? Every single bundle was just $100, $100.
Yeah.
You know what everybody said? We want more affordable bundles. Now they're throwing out $5 bundles, Token Tuesdays for cheap as shit. You know who gives them praise for that? Fucking nobody, right? Nobody, right? We scream about card balances, then they come, right? They're listening to us. I have a video up on my channel just ranting back from like December or January. Like, I'm like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. The Second Dinner listens to us, because they're clearly not. And I've changed my tune, right? But anyways, what I'm getting at is I force myself to remember these positive things. You guys, you're getting thousands of free tokens a month, thousands of them. But I just ran a poll on my community tab, and I said, hey, how many tokens do you currently have right now, right? Here, let me refresh this. So at the time of recording this, I have, how many respondents? 1,700 people responded, okay? 11% have less than 1,000 tokens. 20% have between 1,000 and 3,000 tokens. 37%, the largest percentage, has between 3,000 and 6,000 tokens, okay? Because my hypothesis is that people are hoarding tokens. So that's why I ran this. But after that, 18% of people have between 6,000 and 10,000 tokens. 14% of people have over 10,000 tokens. If you ask me, we have a token hoarding problem. People, you guys, do you know that the number one question we content creators get is, what should I spend my tokens on? People are scared shitless. Like, you guys, when you play the game, even if you're free to play, you're opening reserves, you're getting tokens. And on average, it's like, what is it? It's like somewhere between like 3,000 and 4,000 or 3,000 and 5,000 a month just from playing the fucking game. Spend your tokens, have fun, all right? But instead, we're all complaining about like, oh, well, now I don't know. And I'll try to wrap it up with this, because I told this story on Twitter, and I'll tell it again. The other day for Pride Month, I love scented candles, and Bath & Body Works had a sale on scented candles to celebrate Pride Month. I'm like, oh shit, $15 candles? That shit's usually like 25 to 30 bucks. Cool. So I got a couple of them. The very next day, they're like, hey, we got candles for like $13. I'm like, God damn it. And it was more scents. I'm like, fuck, man, you just had a sale yesterday. Okay, whatever. I went and bought some more candles. Brad, I shit you not, the very next day they said we have $10 candles. So you know what I did? I went and I bought some more fucking candles. What I'm getting at, people, is every business on earth has sales. You're gonna buy something at one price, it's gonna go on sale, you say fuck, and then you either buy it or you don't, and you move on with the rest of your life, right? But everybody's like, you're not telling me exactly when it's going on sale. Like, nobody fucking does. Why are we holding Second Dinner at this insane standard? But here's the other thing where Second Dinner fucked up. They set that standard for themselves. They should have, if they can go back in time, just never talk about series drops, surprise people with them, you know, whatever, like, hey, surprise, like, and I just said this on Twitter to all the fucking people arguing with me about it. I said, this is where they screwed up. And this is why for-profit businesses know that it's a better strategy to start things at a higher price point and bring them down than to start them low and then raise them. You know what I mean? So Second Dinner should have started at worst case scenario, so anything else would have been an improvement. But you know what? I hate to break it to you, that screws all of us. I would much rather them start it at a reasonable place, and every now and then they have to finagle a little. But like you were saying too, we're privy to some information, but they said we can share some of it, that this is part of a larger plan for like either card acquisition or token acquisition or whatever. And like, let me ask you this, audience, like, feel free to leave a comment. How many tokens would you have to get on average a month for this to balance out? Like, let's say they never downgrade Darkhawk, ever in their lives. They just never, permanent Series 4, right? But let's say they hand you 12,000 tokens. Is it still a big deal? You got 12,000 tokens for free? Because I do think somewhere in Second Dinner's thought process, they're doing 2 cards straight to Series 4, right? I saw in KM Best's video, he made a good argument, like, we don't know how good those are gonna be yet, but like, what balances it out? Like, because what I'm seeing is that people just aren't spending their tokens. They're afraid to, you know what I mean? So it's like, what if they gave you a shit ton of tokens? Are you gonna buy it? Like, if they gave you 3,000 free tokens, that's the same as getting the card for Series 3, right? But we don't know if that's going to happen, by the way. But I'm just saying, like, I'm trying to think of how Second Dinner can rectify it, and I just don't think people are going to be happy.
They need to pick a lane, okay? They need to either have cards not drop at all. Because, okay, I still think that if you're going to keep the big bad thing, the big bad should be Series 5, and that should be the only cards ever in Series 5. Mm-hmm. Every new card should be then introduced into either Series 4 or Series 3 at their own discretion, and then should honestly stay there. Because if you can't buy anything, like, and maybe bump up the pull rates a teeny bit for Series 4 and Series 5. I mean, maybe you can keep 5 the same at the 1% thing, which I think sucks for the most part, but it's supposed to be the big bad that you can't get anyway. And then Series 4 is currently at 10% out of a card cache compared to 89% for a Series 3 card. That's very lopsided to me. I think you can probably bring down the Series 3 card to like 80% and bump up to 20%, right? Or like something like that it had to be 19% for the Series 4. But if they would do this, I guarantee you, this would not be a complaint if this is how it went the entire time. Back in November or December or whatever, when we got that massive drop of all new cards, right? Imagine they're like, okay, here's Galactus and here's Thanos. They're in a special tier called Series 5 because they're big bads and they will not leave that. All these other cards will be in Series 4, which is a new series above what we call, or what you guys used to call it, being pools. Think of this as Pool 4. You can unlock cards from Pool 3 with 1,000 tokens with this new monetization thing that we have for you, or you can get the cooler ones in the above tier at 3,000 because we deem them to be at that play level or whatever, the same way we organize pools 1 through 3, and then big bads will always be at Series 5. And then if later down the line we are open to potentially shifting cards around within the pools if we think they need to change based on more data coming from those cards, and then they shut the fuck up about it forever, no series drops on a regular basis, no changes whatsoever for the most part on Series 4 cards, and I fucking guarantee you this wouldn't be a conversation right now, because you set the precedent that this is the value of these cards, this is the value of these cards. Because they did two things that were fucked up, comes from a good place. They meant well when they did this. The big bads generate excitement and they make them more of a chased card and that kind of thing, and it adds to the lore of those cards, and they think that's cool because they want to be a collection-based game, right? And then Series 4 cards potentially dropping to Series 3, and then other Series 5 cards dropping to Series 4, that kind of thing, is a good thing to allow it to be more accessible as the game goes on, right? These are all things that are done in a good, well-meaning way. But if they never did that, we wouldn't have this problem. If they just said, look, this is the rarity level of this card, it's worth this many tokens. This is the rarity level of this card.
That's what they do in other games, right?
Yeah, like Magic. Like fucking, because you have mythic, rare, uncommon, and common for your rarities. And, a mythic rare wild card is harder to get than a rare wild card. But hey, that's fine. But then the other games also give you a better avenue in which you can just straight up purchase them. These Snap gives you basically loot boxes of like, you'll eventually get enough tokens, or you might pull it out of a loot box. Yeah, where you can't just straight up buy it.
So I was looking at the site because I was trying to pull it up because I originally thought it was a theory we had. Not you and I, but just the community had, that they were doing something like this to get people to actually spend their tokens. That's kind of why I got the idea for like, are people hoarding tokens? And based on my data, people have anywhere but it was like 69, 70% of people have between 3,000 and over 10,000 tokens. So people got tokens, but in their post, I found it says, we don't want you to feel pressured to wait for series drops in order to enjoy that content, being new cards. And we'd like you to be able to play with more new cards each month. They said that with the announcement of the flexible series drops. But anyways.
I would love to see Second Dinner's data behind what the
right?
average token.
No, you and I
is
were
per
talking
account.
about. We saw some fucker with like 68,000 tokens.
Yeah, he had
Like
68,100 or 200, and because I know Binks replied and said, "Hey, get 800 more tokens and then put on Reddit for the free karma or whatever," right? Because he'd be at 69,000. But that is insane. That is an insane amount.
Do you know what that tweet was? It wasn't just an image. You know what the text said? What should I buy? Like
everything.
Imagine like a fucking millionaire walking to a McDonald's and just being like, what should I get?
Hold on.
Or maybe I should just hold.
Time out. I gotta check. I gotta check this shit. Okay, let's look at collection, because let's look at based on, because I think they could have gotten every Series 5 card and every Series 4 card and still have tokens left over. At 69,000 or 68,200 was their thing, okay? So there are how many Series 5 cards? There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 times, okay, so no, they couldn't. They couldn't get all Series 5 cards. 13 times 6 it exceeds that. But pretty damn close. They can get all the big bads. They can just be, okay, Thanos, Galactus, and Kang, High Evolutionary. Got all of you, because that's 6, 12, 18, 24,000 right there, right? And they're, okay, Darkhawk, Nold, Null, I'm sorry. I was looking at fucking Master Mold. It fucked me up. And then, like, Stature, okay? 3,000, 6,000, 9,000. So that's 31. 33,000. So 33,000 you have meta cards, and then you can get Jeff. Then you're at fucking 39,000. Get Iron Lad, you're at 45,000. Okay, and you still have 18,000 tokens left over after getting all those cards. What?
Yeah, and here's the thing, you guys, and I've mentioned it a million times. I have a video up about my philosophy on the token shop. Buy cards you think are good and or fun, fit your play style, whatever. You'll
regret shit. I bought Master Mold. I fucking regret it.
I have every single card except for Stegron and Snowguard. So I have the list up. Let me just tell you about cards that I've bought that I never fucking use. Okay, I bought. Let's talk about the first one, Kang. Kang goes into decks, but he's easily replaceable in every single one. And I guarantee some of you fuckers listening right now spent 6,000 tokens on this card. You barely use him. All right, there you go. Okay,
he was in my Galactus deck, and I changed him out for Iron Lad.
Right. So I barely use Kang. Master Mold, I love that archetype. I need to revisit it, but I never use him, right? Negasonic Teenage Warhead. So I'm the kind of guy where I think a lot of these cards can be useful. You just got to figure it out. But anyways, Negasonic Teenage Warhead just got buffed. Never use her, right? What else? Am I even looking at all these? Oh, because some have dropped to Series 3. But anyways, what I'm getting at is
all the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. cards is another example, right?
Yeah. There's plenty of cards that I've spent money on that I don't use. Like, you guys, I know all of you have made purchases in your real life that how many Steam games do you have that you never played or never finished? Right?
It was on sale. Chris, it was on sale.
It was on sale, It's just I just don't know why in Marvel Snap people are like, oh my God, when the token shop first came out, tokens were so hard to come by, it made sense. But now, dude, when they, every week when they reset the weekly missions and you progress through that and you get those little purple things, I don't even know what they're called. It's just hitting you with the credits. You level up your progression track. You just start going crazy. And you're getting tokens if you're Series 3 complete. So I don't know, man. I think so much of this is just a fear of buying the wrong thing. And the last thing I'll say too.
It's literally FOMO. Yeah. It's FOMO because it's fear of missing out on what you could have bought instead. Mm-hmm. It goes back to that we don't know what's going to be a big bad thing. We don't know what cards are coming out all the time. Or you see the leak cards. How long did we know about certain cards that are out at this moment in time? We knew about Hitmonkey for a hot minute. We knew about Iron Lad or Jeff. Dude, I remember talking about Jeff when he got it was data mined, and I was like, this seems cool. Seems like a good card, right? But that was months ago. And there's gonna be that one fucker that's I'm holding out until Jeff comes out. But then when Jeff comes out, he's like, maybe I won't.
Yeah, maybe.
And then you get 69,000 tokens.
Yeah, but here's one last final hot take. Like, half the people out there, which is why I speak up about it so much on my channel, but half of you out there are wasting your tokens on shit that content creators are saying best card ever in their thumbnail, and then you go watch their highlight reels and you buy them anyways. Why are you so fucking pissed at second dinner? Half of you should be mad at content creators only showing you the fucking wins with new cards that fucking suck. I had to get that out. But like, all the hits go into second dinner. I've never seen anybody complain about a content creator fucking clickbaiting you into buying a fucking card. Everybody keeps asking me, should I get Living Tribunal? Should I get Howard? I'm like, bitch, if you like tech cards, go for it. If not, fucking wait, you know?
Chris, even Johnny Manziel has a highlight reel of good plays, right? That doesn't mean he's a Hall of Famer, okay?
Who's Johnny Manziel? I'm not a sports guy.
Fuck! If for anyone for anyone who gets that, I love you. It's not that crazy. He was a Browns quarterback. Got drafted, I think, 8th or 9th overall. I remember because I'm a Bucs fan, and I remember watching that draft and like thinking he's gonna fall to the Bucs, and that'd be kind of cool. And he falls to the Bucs as a chance like they're gonna draft him. Like, do we get him? Are we gonna finally have a quarterback and shit? Because the Bucs are an organization that never have. Don't say Tom Brady. That just fucking happened. This is years ago. I've never had a franchise quarterback. We had Doug Williams. We had, fucking Steve Young, but they left to go be Hall of Famers somewhere else and sucked with Tampa. This is the pain of being a Bucs fan. It's also the pain of being a Rays fan. Small payroll. We get all the cool big players and they go somewhere the fuck else. Or you draft an all-star, perennial, generational player.
Is it pay to win?
It is pay to win. Oh, baseball is the most pay-to-win sport there fucking is. Like, look, yeah, you can be the Kansas City Royals in 2015 and win with a lot of the Rays old players, right? Like they'd fucking doesn't fucking matter. But anyway, Manziel was a bad player. He's out of the league. He's been out of the league for years. He was a bust. Jamarcus Russell's another one. Like, there are plenty of sports analogies you can use of like X player that had so much aspirations, and then like you type in their name highlight reel, they're gonna have at least 5 minutes of like cool shit they did while they were in the league for the most part, unless they died in the first 3 games they played and never played again, which happens. But hey, them dying on the field was a cool replay, I guess. So they still had something. It doesn't make them a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Same with these cards.
You guys, just keep an eye out, because there's other people that should be getting a little bit of hate, but they're not. And there's things that second dinner. All I'm personally asking is that people just give them credit for some of the shit they do. All right, when they do make changes, and you know what? Before we transition to the next thing, like, you all got fucking Kitty Pride for free. I never thought in a million years they'd give you guys a free card. They gave you a free card.
I barely expected them to give you a refund.
when people were saying that, when people
and
were
like, it wasn't even just like this.
Free.
Yeah, it wasn't even 6,000. Here you go back. It was 8,000. They gave you 2,000 extra, and I was like, maybe they'll give them 3,000. I don't know.
Yeah,
you get some of it back or whatever. Or you get like a ticket that says 1 free Series 5 card of your choosing or some shit.
Yeah. So I got faith that they'll do something. But anyways, let's wrap up.
I have one more thing I want to say, because I had one more reply I want to read out for you in this thread. Okay, because this one also tickled me in a way. Because again, this is the same thing. This is the same thing that I was saying earlier. Look, it's like that classic tweet that someone had years ago where it's like, Twitter's the kind of place where you can be like, I like pancakes. Like, you hate waffles? Like that kind of thing. It's like, no, it's an entirely new sentence. So someone said, the voice of a Series 3 complete player. Good on you, man. In all honesty, new players into this game are pretty much dead on arrival. At this rate, it'll take them 2 years to get Series 3 complete, if that. Pay to win is the name of the game, however you spin it. What it boils down to is that good cards are locked away behind a very huge paywall. You'd sing a different tune if you were starting out Marvel Snap now or mid-Series 3, be honest. Okay, 2 things. 1, your math is wrong as shit, my friend. You are so off as far as how much it takes to finish Series 3 at this point. I understand it's gotten really a lot bigger with all the series drops and stuff like that, but it is not going to take people 2 fucking years, even if they're completely free to play, to finish Series 3. It will take them a few months to finish Series 3. We've seen math behind it. There's been plenty of other YouTubers and content creators to break this down at this point. Like, it does, just go fucking look at one. Like, they can tell you what the math is behind that. Secondly, me saying I would sing a different tune if I was starting out Marvel Snap now or mid Series 3. To be honest, yeah. I've already said that it sucks for new players or people leaving the game to come back because of the way the card acquisition is. What is the one thing that I want in this fucking game besides a sideboard? Better card acquisition.
Yeah.
Hey, what was that video I did on YouTube about? Hey, what was the main thing? The tech card thing? The tech card thing? What was the main point of the video?
Yeah.
Acquisition sucks.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah, I don't know what I would do if I was brand new and stuff. But the thing is, like Brad was saying earlier, we're in a community of people, and like I see the same people, and like I'm like, bitch, I know you've been around for a while, right? Like, and like, dude, if like you guys, if you've been playing this game for like 6 months plus and you're waiting for a season pass card to drop, like kick rocks, dude. If you didn't spend $10, like unless you were in a coma for a month, like spend $10 on the game. Like I said this to somebody else earlier, like you guys are lucky I don't run Second Dinner because I'd be telling everybody off. I'd be like, wait, you can't spend $10? Like I don't think free to play should exist. I just don't, not in a card game, right? Like I get that free to play or freemium games are like a thing on like PC and stuff like that. Like, you know, there's certain games you can download, then you just pay for cosmetics and stuff. But a card game, like any card game, you're spending money. Like someone did that video on the average cost of like the top decks in like paper card games like Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and stuff like that. It was like fucking thousands of dollars. It was like insane, you know? So I don't know. Let's jump into the OTAs before my blood pressure goes up too high.
Hold on.
I'm waiting. I'm petting my new cat.
Okay, hold on.
Is there? Oh wait. Oh, did he have to get something?
So hold on. This is my magic bag. These are all decks. These are all decks. These are not even all of them. There's a bunch of. I'm just holding it awkwardly because like there's. Oh, let me fucking move my phone a little bit. So these are all decks.
No, that's like a camera bag, isn't it?
It's a camera bag that I use for Magic decks. It's awesome. So this backpack alone is like 10 grand. All these right here. This is like 10 grand a card. Also, hold on. Okay.
Jesus, don't get robbed.
Hold on. See that? Those are all Magic cards. That's like another few grand right there.
That's nuts.
Oh, also see that tote underneath there? More Magic cards. Baseball cards. More shit. Another few grand in that tote. So this comes from someone who's been unfortunately involved with TCGs and card games and collectible cards in general across all different varies of memorabilia. Shit's expensive. And Snap is a very expensive hobby. Snap is a very expensive hobby. I will admit that. And there is differences, right? Because like Magic, it could be a tangible thing. But hey, I could also spend a lot of money too in the digital component of Magic, like Magic Arena. I could sell my account in Magic Arena for like easily a few $1,000 right now, based on like how long I've had the account. The money I've put into it might not equal $1,000, right? But the amount of grinding and like stuff I put into the account and all the cards I have in my collection, I can sell it for easily $1,000 or so bucks. Another example is my MTGO account, my Magic Online account. Last year, I sold my entire collection out of it because I was using I got a rental service as a content creator for Magic for free. We partnered with one of the rental services. So we got like, 1,000 ticks, like 1,000 ticks accounts for free. The ticks are equal to $1. So $1,000 accounts that you can rent up to that much per whenever. So I sold my entire collection. You know how much I sold my entire collection for? $2,000.
Yeah.
Like,
jeez, now I'm wondering, I'm like, geez, how much is my
even in the
Snap
digital
account
component of other games? Games are fucking expensive. Now, I can't sell my Snap collection. I could theoretically sell my Snap account. I could find someone, give them the log information, and then like, can you unlink emails?
Emails? I don't know. I know you could change the username.
Yeah. But I'm saying like it's tied to emails. I wonder. I think you can unlink. Like you have to do one at a time. Like I unlink the Gmail. I sell to someone else. They link their Gmail, and then they unlink my iCloud. So now it's independent. And I think that could work. But also, I think you're technically not allowed to do that. It is illegal.
Yeah, against the terms of service. Yeah, I had somebody a few months ago. I had a DM from a guy. So on Twitter you get DMs from people that you follow, and then it goes to like other DMs you have to check from people you don't follow. And I was going through just kind of cleaning it up, seeing if I missed anything important. First, this one guy, he was asking me if I can use his account to get him to infinite, right? Which I don't do. And then like a month later, he said, "Hey, I'll sell you my account for $500." And I was like, okay. And I think so. I'm guessing he quit or something like that. But yeah, anyways, you guys, these card games, they're gonna cost a little. Like, I don't know, man, for like something you love and a company you want to support, like I think like 20 to $50 a month minimum. Like not 20 to $50 a month, maybe like $10 for the season pass. Outside of that, you're earning stuff, but it's like how much free stuff do we want? Because unfortunately, this is a fucking
the whole game to be free.
Yeah, it's a capitalistic economy. Like second dinners got to make their money. They got kids to feed. They have people that they answer to. They're like, what, part of Disney and stuff? Like they have to answer to them. You think Disney's going to keep them around if they're not turning over a profit? Like, so no.
Anyone that plays Magic will very much appreciate what I'm holding in my hand here. These are Invocation Thoughtseizes. Each one of these is like $200. So this right here, 4 cards is this is 600. No, $800 right here.
Do you have to buy those, or you just open them in packs?
Oh, I bought them because again, I look at these pretty cards. Also, these are the invocations from Amonkhet. So it's like they're Egyptian bordered and stuff, and they look really cool. I'm trying to let it focus. Please focus. It's focusing. Yeah, but yeah, these are expensive. Also, I never use them in actual tournament play because I did one time and someone twice in a single tournament, like an RCQ. So I got called judge on twice in the same tournament because of the cards to verify that they're like real and legal. Because you could easily proxy stuff like that, right, and get the fake ones. So I had to like go through the process of like having a judge because there's 2 different judges, pull them out, fucking check them, like do the loop thing and like the light test and shit. And they're like, yeah, it's real. And I'm like, the next time, and I was like, hey judge, can I swap these copies of Thoughtseizes out like for these other Thoughtseizes, and you can watch me do it, please. So like this doesn't happen again. They let me. I'm like, I'm not playing these fucking fancy ones anymore because people are like, those aren't real, because they want a Game Sharky, they want a Rule Sharky. Sorry, they want to fucking get a win.
Yeah,
like if they weren't real, they could, right?
See, good old digital games. Don't go worry about that. All right. Now we'll jump into the OTA balance changes. So
yeah,
these are interesting. I got mixed feelings on them. I've learned to cope with them.
I'm very sad.
I've learned to cope, but I have hope. So the first one on the OTA changes is Spider-Man. All right, I just got my Spider-Man inked too. I bought the Max Grec, I got him inked, and the new one is his previous stats were 4.3, and now he is a 5.4 on reveal. All right, so here's the rationale behind that from the devs. Spider-Man performs very well in multiple decks like High Evolutionary Lockdown and Galactus. By the way, High Evolutionary Lockdown is one of the top decks. Like after everybody was playing High Evolutionary like crazy and the dust settled, this one is on top. And by the way, that's a deck that I kept losing to with my Galactus because it would Spider-Man me back and Jeff wasn't there. Anyways,
that was the one to look out for.
We want to avoid these kinds of play styles being too powerful as they are frustrating to play against. So we've decided to adjust Spider-Man to limit his play in combos like Spider-Man into Professor X. While this does put him at the same cost as his lockdown peer Professor X, we think that their effects are distinct enough that they both sit at a 5 cost. So what are your thoughts on the Spider-Man change?
Okay, so I have something that, because we are part of the creator program, Chris and I, along with many other content creators. So we were able to talk to like Glenn and stuff like that directly. I mean, he responds pretty much the same amount he does to people outside of this. It's not like we're special. It's just like he might be able to say things to us that he won't always say in public or whatever. But he's really consistent about it. I have a couple things that I asked him in the Discord that I want to touch on because I reread them to make sure they're not anything like I can't say. They absolutely are. So I want to touch on them real quick, and then, we need the context of the next one in order to do that. So you can give your thoughts, or we can go to the next one, combine them.
We'll go to the next one. Okay. No, I'll give my thoughts. I don't think it's a huge deal. It is definitely one of those annoying cards. Like, I got to Infinite with Lockdown last season, and I never previously played Lockdown because, like, I know that they can be frustrating to play against. But I did it while, people were just playing nothing but destroy, and I wanted to use Cosmo and armor, so I put together this deck. But, playing a lot of Spider-Man, again, he accomplishes the same thing as Professor X, except you can get around it with like a Dr. Doom. So I don't think it's a huge deal. I like how it's gonna make people have to play more. I'll say this, my number one complaint about Marvel Snap is that there are a lot of linear decks where patterns don't change. They just have a straight line where if somebody gets what they want to do off, they play it. If not, they retreat. So things like this changing and making people have to think more, I like it. Rather than I Spider-Man'd you, now I Professor X you, go from there.
Stock of Daredevil should go up quite a bit for these kind of decks, both non-high evolutionary and high evolutionary versions, if they want to keep Spider-Man in the deck, because now that encourages you to play Spider-Man and like Professor X and be in that same vein of like, the same type of play leading into turn 6, and Daredevil giving you that information does help Spider-Man a lot more in that sense. So I think that's kind of nice. But or at least you could do that before, right, with the 4-cost Spider-Man and then play like a 1-drop. But the mental aspect of being efficient in your energy spending will make people probably do this type of thing more.
I am curious if Spider-Man or Lockdown lovers are going to start creating like a ramp style Lockdown deck. You know what I mean?
I was thinking about Wave. I was already thinking about Wave, and then like trying to catch someone off with like try to look at Galactus and do the same thing, but instead of Galactus, I'm just like going Wave, Professor X, Spider-Man, that kind of thing.
So I'm curious to see if anybody goes that route. Me, I just don't like ramp. I don't like being able to like Electro. I don't like being able to play one card at a time. Whatever.
Yeah, but, I wouldn't go the Electro route. I'd probably just go Wave as my ramp, and like maybe Psylocke.
Oh yeah.
Because then you could go worse thing. You can go like on 3, you can go 1-drop Psylocke, right? Like a Sunspot or like Nebula. Nebula would be very nice in that sense because now you don't feel pigeonholed to drop Nebula early to get the value out of her. You can then go like on 3 Nebula Psylocke, and then on turn 4 Professor X over the Nebula, and then get the value that way.
Yeah,
and then Spider-Man on 5 in another lane, and then lock that down in that fashion.
That'd be interesting.
I like that idea.
I like it. So the next one, this one hit me hard, but I've calmed down. This is probably the one that freaked me out the most. So this one is Beast. They have changed Beast from a 2/2 to a 3/4. So, I get it. They say, bounce decks with cards like Kitty Pryde, Bass, and Hitmonkey have been performing very well lately. Beast in particular stood out to us as a very powerful enabler in the deck. We want Beast effects to take more of an investment to get returns, so we're adjusting him to be a 3-cost card. This also helps Falcon get to spread his wings, as he often felt like the worst Beast without the cost reduction. So what are your thoughts?
I actually love this change because 2 things. One, from a flavor aspect, Beast should be more than 2, I think, right? Because he's a bigger guy, 3 makes sense. Being a 3/4, giving him a nice body makes sense as well. In my limited play with bounce decks, I don't play that super consistently, right? But I've played it enough where I can at least see some play patterns, or played against it enough to see play patterns. I noticed there's a surprising amount of like potential mana floating in those decks, even on turns where you play Beasts. So I feel like the 3/4 thing is maybe a bit more of a lateral move than a direct nerf or buff in any way. I'd argue it might lean a bit more into a buff because that 2 power oftentimes in a bounce style deck can make the difference. They didn't change the way of like cost reduction for him, so you still get that. And then meanwhile, It also makes your curve a little bit more interesting because now you can because Falcon's the smaller one is a 2/3. You might be happier to actually play Falcon a bit earlier than you normally would. Like maybe you go like Hood on 1, and then go like a 1 like Kitty on 2 or something like that or whatever. Maybe you might, and then like on 1 drop, then Falcon on 3, and then Beast on 4 or 5 for that last like push with something else. Or you might even in some games just go Hood on 1, Falcon on 2, Hood on 3 with something else, and just kind of go from there because like you just want to get the extra demon. Like you're just trying to get the value out faster. So I don't know. I don't think this change is bad.
Yeah, I think for my play style, so I play a lot of balance. I think for my play style, like, I think it's going to be fine. At first I was like, no. And then I was like, this might be better because he is getting 2 extra power. So my typical play is, if I have my ideal hand, it's Kitty on 1, Kitty and Iceman, or Kitty and, Hood on 2. I think it's a mistake to drop Angela on 2. You want to just get Kitty going. Angela's going to get buff later. So then on 3, you can drop Angela and Kitty, right? And then on 4, it doesn't really change, right? Well, no. Yeah, so you wouldn't be able to. Because I usually do Kitty and then like another 1 drop and then Beast, all on Angela. So she's like buff, I bring her back, now she's only a 1 cost. So now you would have to wait until turn 5 to drop 2 cards like that. Because Kitty is 1
well, how
cost,
much of a difference now does it change to go just Kitty and then Beast on top of Angela like that and do the same thing, just lose out that 1 drop? Because like because think about it. On average, the 1 drop you're playing is gonna be like something interactive, right? Like a bee, not a beast. I'm sorry, like an Iceman. I don't know if you like do Korg or whatever like that. Like some people play Yondu, like those type of 1 drops, and they're almost always a 1/2. And the difference in that 2 power you usually would get for that 1 energy is now in Beast's stats. So that particular play you're saying most of the time is fine unless you want to drop a a demon in that line and then pick it up for 0. That way you can you can put it anywhere and kind of see what your opponent's doing.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting. Like you said, it might be a lateral move because there is a lot of times when I have 1 extra power or 1 extra energy. So I don't see this as a huge deal. When I first saw it, I freaked out. But what were you guys saying? How does this work with Spider-Man? I'm curious about that.
Okay, so it's not like they're in tandem with one another. It's more so of a thing of my questions with Glenn involved both of them, basically. So I said, Spidey used to be nice on turn 4 after my opponent played Electro, calling out the potential Galactus lane and shutting that down. So I am a little sad that this is no longer a viable counter to that deck, while Spidey himself serves the exact same role as before for Galactus himself, being a turn 5 play after a turn 4 Galactus. Glenn responded to that saying, correct, this change is to weaken Spidey in a non-Galactus deck where his win rate and play rate has ballooned into the last week and a half above what we consider fun.
High Evolutionary's fault, by the way.
Yeah, I agree. And then I said it's understandable. I said, though, the turn 5 Spidey essentially locking down a lane for turn 6 works in a similar way to Professor X, as you noted in the patch. Does this sequence still present or still represent unfun play patterns that you're worried about? I'm just curious into the overall thought process behind the balancing things like this around an enjoyment factor, because that's what that seems to be from the most part. The Spider-Man change seems to be an enjoyment thing rather than just a straight up pure win rate perspective, but a mixture of both. He said, our goal is for these kinds of cards to be on the inefficient side and to compete with one another, which reduces the frequency that they're actually played as a class, meaning together. Professor X, Sandman, Leech, and now Spidey all kind of overlap in this space, and we prefer that they each show up in small amounts over any 2 showing up together. And there's still a couple more things in this little thread because I had more questions because this his answers made me go, but then I was like, one other question. Spoiler, this ended up being 2 other questions. It seems the game is looking to lean a bit more into explosive plays as the norm, rather than things like Lockdown, Leech, or whatever else the community feels is unfun for the most part. While Beast's change is something to address these types of decks, is that the overall direction you'd prefer to see the game lean into? And was there any consideration to making Beast's effect to have a reduction limit to 1 the same way as Sarah and Quinjet? So he says, we're not trying to twist things into a specific direction, more so just to make sure there are lots of directions. That said, we do like the vision for Snap being more frequently about executing something cool than preventing your opponent from doing the same. So our card design and balance will lean that way more often. We like Sandman existing, but we don't like lots of Sandman existing. Right now, I like allowing high effort cards to reduce to 0, talking about the Beast change. That excitement is more valuable than a blanket rule. So he says, I expect us to continue using the minimum 1 clause on ongoing effects that can affect multiple cards passively over multiple turns, but not to use it on triggered effects like Beast or single card reduction like Death, or symmetrical ones like Elysium. So that was that whole thing. So I like the insight that Glenn gave us in there. There was a lot of good nuggets of information. While he did say that they don't necessarily want to lean into, or they're not trying to lean into the direction of like explosive plays, like I said, they are in a way kind of doing that because they'd rather encourage people to do cool things than encourage people to say you're not allowed to do cool things. Which tells me Glenn, as a game designer, does not like control in Magic because he's also a game designer over there.
Yeah, I'll say I absolutely love that answer because what I was saying earlier when we're talking about the Spider-Man change, I like putting thought into my plays and everything like that, and I get very bored with linear styles. That's why I haven't played Galactus nearly as much, aside from just all the shaming that goes on. And by the way, you guys, we've said people are overblown about Galactus many a times, like the amount I lost with Galactus. But anyways, I won't get into that. But I love his answer because that's what'll keep me interested in the game, right? That's why I love the Magantris deck. There's so many different play lines, and you got to think and move around and stuff like that. That is what I enjoy. I've been playing some other card games like Runeterra lately, and I like the decision-making aspect. I don't like people who are like, hey, this combo's busted, I'm gonna play until I get it off, and then if you can't do this thing, if you can't block it, I win, right? I like having to think a little bit more. So I'm glad that they lean in that direction. And it makes sense what he's saying about putting Leech, Professor X, Spider-Man, all kind of in that group together. That makes a ton of sense. So I'm happy about that. And I'm excited to see where people go with this, because something we didn't talk about with the card, the series downgrades and everything is what people are also forgetting is with these OTA balance changes, we're not seeing these singular oppressive decks that people just can't counter. We haven't run into a Shuri meta since Shuri, right?
Yeah. That's
so
true.
I don't think people realize 2 or 3 months ago, it was necessary to have some of the best cards. But now, and one of the reasons I do monthly videos on decks hitting infinite very fast is to show the wide variety, right? You guys, you need to understand that Sarah Control is in the top 2 or 3 every single season. Sarah Control, that is straight up Series 3 cards. Some of them are running Hit Monkey, you don't need to, all right? So So just this idea that you have to have certain cards, get that out of your head. It's holding you back in the game.
Wow, Chris, spoken like a Series 3 complete player, huh? I'm sure you'd change your tune if you were a newer player.
Yeah. Well, hey, ranked puts you up against similar collection levels. So people are good there. All right. So the next change was another one that hit me hard, but I was like, and you'll see why. So next one is the Hood. Hood is going from a 1, -2 to a 1, -3. So they say, many decks are able to take great advantage of the cheap 6-power demon while neutralizing the Hood's negative power. We're making a small nerf to the Hood's power to make him more punishing to play if you're unable to counteract his base power. Notably, this is actually a buff to Viper decks that hand the Hood over to the opponent to deal with. Yeah, so all of you lovers who doing junk-style decks, you just got more stock. But Bass too. Bass is a little bit more valuable now. Now you're adding, you're giving your Hood +6 basically with one little bast, you know? So that value just went up a little bit too. Like, so I'm not too upset. Playing so much bounce, previously playing Majantress where you use Carnage or Killmonger to get rid of your Hood, like, I don't care. I don't mind. You know, if you're playing a deck that leaves Hood on the table, like, get a new deck, you know?
If junk players could read, they'd be very happy.
Well, that's why they're listening to us.
Yeah.
You're welcome, you guys.
It's junk players to me feel like rule players in Magic. It's just like you just do the thing and then like you hope it works out. Like, and I'm not shitting on junk players. Like it's just a joke, but like fucking, I think that particular that deck is. I mean, there are lines to it, I guess, but it's a lot of the same thing. It's like, I need to fill their side with bullshit, and then Valkyrie the side that I don't have them filled with bullshit, and it's like, I win. Like, it's just the deck.
I do think, like, there's just, maybe somebody should do a meme. Like, there's certain personalities that go with certain decks, like Galactus players, junk deck players, you know what I mean? Like, junk deck players do want to torture you. They want to decrease your fun. Not all Galactus players do this, but some of them just want to watch the world burn. You know what I mean? They like, I've had people reply like, no, it's just about making your opponent miserable. I'm like, I fucking knew it. I guarantee some junk players are like that too. Like, how much shit can I put over there? You know what I mean? But I do love playing bounce against junk decks. They like fill me up, and then now I'm going to use my 3-cost beast to just swoop it up.
Oh,
you know?
I love seeing my opponent whenever Central Park pops up, or like the one that makes the Raptors pops up.
Oh,
and they bounce it, and then like I watch like these tokens go back to their hand, and then later on I just see them play a card and it flips over. It's a fucking Raptor. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, it makes me happy to see things that don't feel like it should happen.
It's exciting.
It just feels so illegal to watch a card flip over and watch it be a 1/1 Raptor.
Yeah,
wrong.
We bounce deck players. We keep it interesting. So yeah, I don't see that as being a huge deal. It'll be interesting, but I don't think like Beast, Hood, I don't see the stock going down too much for him. Spider-Man, I am interested to see how it shifts the meta just a little bit.
Yeah.
But the next one on the list, finally, my girl's getting some love. So Rogue is going from a 3/1 to a 3/2. The explanation for this, maybe I misread it, but I was like, I don't understand the explanation, just buffer a little bit. It says, in a similar vein to our Enchantress buff, Rogue is a card we'd expect to see more of to counteract powerful ongoing effects. While it's not surprising that Enchantress is more popular with her higher power base, more universal coverage, the synergy with cards like Zabu and Lizard, we were surprised to see Rogue performs poorly even in Silver Surfer decks. We're giving her a small bump in power to help her be a more viable tool to counter ongoing decks. Like, I maybe it's because I just don't play Surfer. I'm like, was that the main like catalyst for it? Like, I don't know.
I think they should do. I think there should be a better way to do it, rather than a more meaningful buff to Rogue would be. I don't know how you would template this and word it. Is if she's a 3/1, that's fine, but I think she should still steal a random ongoing card's effect, right? But it should also just copy the entirety of the card. So, for example, if it's like, if it copies like a Darkhawk or whatever, it also copies the stats itself and everything. I mean, I don't know, like, or maybe not. I don't know. Like, I don't know what
Dino,
you do.
like turn her into a 3/3 if she copies Double Dino because he's a 5/3. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like also take the power from it too. Because like, I liked her in Silver Surfer. Like that's where I liked her the most, and I liked she was like a nice surprising card. But like, you don't play her for the power output, but also you want the power output to be something a bit better in those instances where it's like they have. Like, if I'm playing against your deck, right, and you have, like, you have Ghost out, I don't want to fucking steal your Ghost in that lane. Or maybe you have Lizard out in, like, one lane, right? And then, like, you have Lizard next to an Iron Man, and I'm going for the 50-50 trying to steal the Iron Man effect, and I steal Lizard's effect. Like that's where Rogue is a problem for me. Not because it's not a good card. I think it's fine. It's just I don't like leaving things up to chance, where Enchantress is just more efficient because, yes, you're not stealing the Iron Man ability, which is in itself far more powerful when you high roll, right? But you're just turning it off, and a lot of times they're not putting enough power into that lane anyway to make it, extremely crazy with Iron Man. They're like, it's doubling, so I don't need to invest as much into it. That's the thinking behind the card. So if you just turn it off, you often win. So that's my issue with Rogue. I don't think this does shit.
Yeah, this is a change, and I think the next one, because the next one's a buff too, and I don't think the cards are going to see increased play. Yeah, but like Enchantress, like a 4/6 is huge. Like a 4/5 is still pretty decent. You know what I mean? But like upping a 3/1 to a 3/2, and I don't know if it's like making her like a 2/3 or something like that. Because I mentioned to you on Discord, like, I'd be happy with a 3/3, but then she doesn't work as well in negative decks. I do like putting Rogue in some negative decks if like the meta has a lot of ongoing. But yeah, we'll see. Like on the off chance that I do use Rogue, because I do use her sometimes. I was using her during the high evolutionary first 24, 48 hours just to steal Luke Cages. You know what I mean? What would be really cool, and Second Dinner actually mentioned this in one of their talks, like they can't do it or something. But it would be cool if Rogue could target, if you could target a card. That would, like, a 3/2 where you could target a card, that'd be sick. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to make a target ability ever. Also, like, I think there's two problems with it. One, they want the games, they mentioned, they answered this question before, I think, right, about targeted stuff. Where they said it doesn't fit in line with the faster games that they have in mind and whatever, which, by the way, they're introducing.
I thought they were just saying, like, it was a functionality issue with, like, mobile first.
It was both. Yeah. But the first answer they had was the fact that it goes against the core idea or ideology of Marvel Snap being faster games, where it's all automated to a sense, where if you give more people things to click on, then it adds that little bit more time that is enough of a difference. But I mean, as the game gets older and you're adding more modes like Conquest mode, if they ever add like an actual best of 3 sideboard type of mode, then those games will be longer, right? So. Yeah. That ideology will slowly shift away, I suppose.
Speaking of, in the topic of Marvel Snap being fast-paced, a feature that I love from Legends of Runeterra that I wish Marvel Snap has, if you don't have a play, it automatically goes to the other person's turn. Like, there's times where even I space out, right? And I'm just like, oh, I can't go. I thought I hit the in turn button and I didn't. Like, it just automatically goes. I don't know if they do that. They don't have that feature in, so you can play like a little bit of a mind game or something like that. But like, if I don't have the energy to play a card, like, let's say when some jackass accidentally waves on turn 2 and nobody could play, it should just fucking fast forward to the next round, you know?
Here's the reason why I don't want that. Or if it was an option, it has to be a mode or a thing you toggle on and off in game. Is because games like Magic Arena and Magic Online have auto pass turns, and Magic Online is way worse with this. It's you hit F6 and then you auto pass your turn, and that's how you, like, if you're playing against someone and like you can tell when they F6 when you're playing Magic Online. It's literally a term people would say, like, oh, I caught him F6ing, or like they don't have interaction or whatever. Like, so you have the green light to go, which is a negative thing overall for the game. Where like in paper you have to, like, be like, okay, I put this on the stack, is that fine? Then your opponent can like look at their hand and kind of think for a second, even if they're just bluffing. It just completely takes out that aspect of it entirely. I know the flipping at the same time thing changes that, but like sometimes, if my opponent's taking forever to pick, like, to make a play, and I'm sitting there waiting the entire time, sometimes I'll just snap out of like frustration of like, just, can you go? Like, maybe because maybe they're like thinking that they have a good play, and this snap will encourage them to fucking leave. But also plenty of times they're just roping me to maybe get me to snap or encourage me to snap, and then like I made the bad play, right? So that aspect of it is no longer viable in the game.
I do definitely appreciate that because I I play those games too. I'll be like, I'm gonna make them think I'm thinking, even though I have a game-winning play. Sometimes I hurry up and go because I'm like, I don't want them to snap me. I want to go in this. Like I'm confident enough for 2 Qs, but not 4. You know what I mean? So like I get it. It's just sometimes it gets frustrating to me. I'm like, I wish it was a freaking auto go. But yeah, like Rogue, this very last OTA change is Medusa. People have been screaming about Medusa forever, and I don't think this is gonna do it. So Medusa previously, if you played her in the middle location, you get +2 power. Now if you play her there, you get +3, which is all right. Like stat wise, that's all right. It's in line with Lizard. All right. It's going to be in line with, Silk when she comes out, a 2/5, but it says
Star-Lord, baby.
Oh yeah. There you go too. Yeah. And even Star-Lord, he got played because it was a challenge to play him. You know what I mean? Now it's like, but anyways, what they said was players move past many of their starter decks or starter cards pretty quickly, but most of them make a comeback in a variety of later archetypes. For example, Quicksilver was in a Lockjaw deck for a while. I must have missed that. Iron Man sees play in Thanos Ongoing and Mr. Negative, and just recently High Evolutionary brought back all the vanilla cards. Medusa, however, stands out as a card that sees virtually no play anywhere beyond the early stages of Snap. Even though she's consistently a 2/4 currently, her restriction makes her weaker than she may seem. We're giving her a buff to allow her to better compete with other options at the 2-cost slot. Like, this is where, I get why people are upset about the Jeff downgrade, but Jeff is like the best 2-cost card right now, right? But I don't know when I'm going to put Medusa in. Like 2/5, maybe. I'm looking at these cards, I don't know. Would you rather play Lizard anywhere with the possibility that they're filling up a lane, or play Medusa middle?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, maybe the only place this could see play is 3/5.
Yeah, because I'm looking to even if I'm looking at Dagger and Craven right now with Move being a thing, those things have the potential to get huge. You know what I'm saying? Luke Cage is a 2/2. Master Mold, that's something that could probably use a buff. You have Mojo, major upside. But even look at Okoye, buffing every card in your deck by 1. I don't know. That's crazy because that is a really good fucking ability. That is a really good ability, and she is never used. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but if she was +2, what she was before, she'd be broken, right?
Yeah.
So it's like Nova too. It's like that effect of getting +2, like that one. You can't that difference between 1 and 2 power is so massive in this game.
Yeah. I'm looking, and I don't know if I would slot her in for anything else.
I just sent you something that you can take a look at real quick on Discord. This was mentioned in our creator channel, and I want to say something about this because my eyes lit up when I read it. I included both messages so you can see the context of what was being discussed. But something that was just said in regards to I guess a little sneak peek of something to come. Maybe the upcoming patch. I don't know.
Yeah, some of these are definitely going to be patch changes. We know Galactus is coming and stuff like that. But yeah, we'll see. This is that's the thing I enjoy about OTA changes. We saw with Enchantress, they overtuned her. They turned her back. They turned her down a little bit. Now she's in a good spot. Whatever. But yeah, we'll see. So they're going to test this out, and we'll see. I think out of all of these, I'm curious the most about Beast. Because bounce is high. A lot of people, I think, have gotten the reps in, and they're making it a lot better. And we'll see if this changes anything. Here's what makes it interesting to me. I think the deck's going to be just as good or possibly better with him being a 3/4. They gave him +2. How many other things on here got a +2? You know what I mean? Even though they upped his cost. So, we'll see. What if it just gets better having, because, playing bounce, I've dropped Beast, and I'm just okay, now I only have 2 power on that lane. You know what I'm saying? This might be big. So I'm wondering what this is going to be. But with what we were talking about earlier with Glenn's, and Second Dinner's idea of making the game less like lockdown and like people have to make more decisions, maybe like some more explosive plays. Like, I don't want him to kill balance. That's like one of the most intricate decks and things that you could do with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm really curious about Spider-Man, to be honest, out of this. I kind of wonder if maybe they didn't give him enough power in this sense, because I guess maybe it's this, they want to treat it in the same vein as Professor X when you got to what's it called, like invest some other stuff in that lane, right? Yeah. or know what's coming because of Daredevil to like, you know, lock the lane down. But yeah, I'm like wondering, I'm like, it'd be kind of cool if Spider-Man was like a 5/5 or a 5/6, and like you play it on turn 5, and like you have, that way you have a bit higher of a chance to like hold your ground there if they play something in that same lane, or you don't have to invest as much the next turn. Because a lot of times when you lock down a lane with Spider-Man, right, on the final turn, you really want that to be the last card you play in that lane, and you want to put all your shit in the other lane to try and win that, right? Yeah. Rather than like, I mean, the 1 power can make a difference, I guess, because there are plenty of times with the 3 power I was close on turn 5. So, but I'm kind of wishing Spider-Man was a bit bigger, especially because like I always felt like Spider-Man being the most iconic, recognizable, and highest sales out of any superhero in history got the second end of the stick a little bit, right?
Yeah, they should have made him a big good. Right?
Yeah, big good. A big friendly neighborhood.
That's kind of what they talked about with a lot of like the cards. Like, remember when Cyclops was pretty much useless before High Evolutionary, or Wolverine before he got changed?
Dude, could you imagine if that was Cyclops' ability the entire time? Because that's such great flavor. You know what? Okay, I want to talk about that real quick. We didn't talk about the High Evolutionary flavor enough. It's not just the sense of like him changing these cards in that sense. We did talk about that, but the flavor of the actual cards themselves are phenomenal. Like, Wasp has her little blasters like in her wrist that she like zaps at people and shit like that, right? And like that makes sense there. Cyclops having his laser like to fucking afflict like different things, like that's amazing flavor. Shocker is not great flavor, I don't think. I think they just needed something to do with him, and he's shocking your hand and it makes it smaller.
Give it a little jolt.
But like and then like Hulk's flavor is awesome. Abomination like feeding off of like the polar opposite of like, because Hulk on one side wants to do all about the ongoing thing, and like I think of like the gamma radiation and like or maybe like you don't want to make the Hulk angry, and as like you let him get angrier and angrier, which the floating of mana does, he gets bigger, right? Where A-Bomb is the same idea, where he's that alter ego polar opposite of Hulk. I know not alter ego, but like the nemesis type of idea, like that type of thing, where like he cares about the other side of High Evolutionary being the afflict in that thing. Then there's the Thing himself, where he's like, it's clobbering time. He just throws shit at you, and
just
that
random
afflicts.
Shit.
Also, the flavor of Luke Cage's effect when you have him on and the Thing throws stuff at him, everything gets deflected away.
That's so great.
Like, that's also amazing flavor. Like, they knocked it out of
nobody
the
gives
fucking
credit.
park.
Nobody gives credit to Second Dinner. It's all no downgrades here and token acquisition and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, they did good. And by the way, and that's the other thing too. High Evolutionary was the most bought card ever. I would put money on it. We don't even need to see Second Dinner's data. And it's like, it's one of the top decks. Like, use it. You don't need Darkhawk, you know? Like, use High Evolutionary for a while. But speaking of, let's wrap this thing up. At the end of the OTA changes, it says, thanks for reading. We're continuing to keep a close eye on the game balance and High Evolutionary in particular. See you all next week for a patch and the release of Conquest. So real quick, the good before the bad. I am fucking excited. So it was up in the air of whether or not the patch was going to come next week or the following week. Like, because it just depends. The fact that it's next week, especially because I just hit Infinite, you just hit Infinite too, and there's not
Conquest mode.
Yeah, there's just not shit to do after you hit Infinite. I'm like, fuck, I guess I'll go play other video games now. That's what I've been doing the last few months. Like, I hit Infinite, then I go play other video games. I come back to make some content, try a new deck, maybe talk about something else. So I'm pumped for Conquest. We'll probably have to dedicate an episode to that. I'm really stoked for it. I think, you know what? Fuck it. Let's talk about Conquest for a second. I want to ask you this. So something KM Best actually shouted me out on his podcast, the Snapshot. It wasn't a good shout out, but anyways, what I was saying was, I don't think right now tournament decks are really highlighting the best decks. I think Conquest mode, because we're going to have a much larger player pool, not only are we going to see more viable competitive decks, but we're also going to see new players rise to the top, right? And I tried to make this clear what I was saying on Twitter, but some people thought I was saying like, the people winning tournaments aren't that good. No, dude, like fucking Lambie series is pretty good. He's pretty damn good, right? Moyen is pretty damn good. Like all these people are really good. I'm just saying we're about to see a lot more players. And this is one of the reasons, if there's a good argument for better card acquisition, it's for more people to have more access to the cards to innovate, right? So Conquest mode, we're gonna see really interesting shit. Like, that's why I wish there was a leaderboard. And I hope there is in Conquest mode. In Legends of Runeterra, they have a leaderboard and you can click and see what deck they're using. And sometimes you'll click on the very top deck and you're like, what the fuck is this, right? And I want to be able to do that. I want to see what some no-name person is doing to just dominate Conquest mode.
It does beg the question: is Untapped and Marvel Snap Zone and Snap.fan are these guys who like made or they had make the what's it called, the trackers? Are they going to have an implementation within these trackers that can differentiate between a deck being used in the ladder and Conquest mode? Because that I feel like is massive.
I'm messaging my contact right now, you son of a bitch.
That is huge, because if they can differentiate, which I don't see why they wouldn't be able to, if they can differentiate between game modes, that data is going to be incredibly valuable. And again, this is coming from someone that says that a lot of this data is skewed in a high variety, but it is data to at least have as a tool nonetheless, and any data is better than no data, right? And so yeah, I'm really excited about looking forward with Conquest mode and what there's going to be. And also, is there going to be enough, maybe not enough people, but like, are they going to be able to utilize the typical ways that you match up against other people in the ladder in Conquest mode, like based on collection level and things like that?
This is something that KM Best is insanely worried about because, speaking of Legends of Runeterra, if you guys want to know a little tea about what's going on in that community, they completely screwed the pooch. They have these opens online to qualify for the world tournament, and the matchmaking's fucked, right? It's putting like vanilla players versus really good players. It's putting, and vice versa, really good players against really bad players because their MMR system's really messed up. I'm not fully understanding what KMS is saying with that, but he's worried that the same thing's going to happen in Conquest mode.
Yeah, no, I can see that. That's my first thought is like, I'm worried about like, because it was interesting how you were talking about like the card acquisition. That's a great, hopeful change to have to make Conquest mode more accessible, because if cards aren't accessible and then the MMR, the way that they match you up with other players in that mode, or if they're like, look, we just need to match up with A players, so it's like if they got the gold ticket too and they're in this thing, you match up against them and they're playing a mostly pool 3.5
then I'm gonna lose my hella bet, huh? Someone's gonna play against some scrub with like a 50 collection level. Yeah, but what are your thoughts on the paid entry option? So, by the way, everybody, it's a fucking option. All right, people were losing their shit. So, in the screenshots when they did the announcement, you saw gold. So like you can enter a higher tier. So you're going through multiple tiers, and the final one is Infinity, which opens up the last week. By the way, that's another reason I'm excited. The patch is coming next week. I was like, fuck, man, because the Infinity mode. You can
start grinding on Conquest mode to get ready for that last week.
Yeah, it's only the last week. So anyways, there's an option to go straight into a higher tier by paying gold, right? But it's an option. You can earn tickets for free. You can grind it out, you can win matches, you can be good at the game and get in there. So do you think it's a good, bad thing? Doesn't matter that if somebody wants to, they pay.
I don't give a shit. Like, look, if you are going to pay gold to skip, the first 3 tiers and go straight into infinite, and then like you now don't have the proper experience of what the meta is and what you're seeing in conquest mode, and you get your shit handed in, I don't give a fuck. Like, do what you want with your money.
How would matchmaking work with that then? So with the topic of matchmaking, right? Putting people up against, what happens if just somebody insanely low collection level, terrible MMR buys their way into it? Will they play, like if let's say me, an experienced player, I've hit infinite every season, I make a new account, maybe I'll do that as an experiment. I buy my way into it. Who's it going to match me up against? Right?
I'll do that with you. Okay, let's both make a new account and see if we can like farm each other. It's a genuinely interesting question. Like, because like, is it boosting? Can you theoretically boost? Because that's a good way to measure how is it matching you up and pairing you up. Because either on one hand, it's going to be like we don't give a shit. We're not even going to try to find anyone at this collection level, and you're going to go against someone who's already an infinite in the ladder, or we're going to be the only 2 people with collection level being 0, and then that's another good question. Is Conquest mode even available to people within a certain pool?
Yeah, because the token shop doesn't unlock.
So I wonder if Conquest is locked behind like the same level a token shop needs to be.
Interesting.
That might be something. Okay, no, honestly, if they considered the Conquest to be the competitive ranked mode, other games, like look at League of Legends, look at Smite, you're not allowed to play ranked in those modes unless you have certain level on your account, certain hours played, and certain like mastery level of individual characters as well. Like Smite, for example, you need to be level 30, which by the way, leveling takes fucking forever in Smite for the individual level, and you have to have mastery level 2 or higher on 14 different gods, which takes a little bit of time as well. So if you don't, they want you to be well-rounded. So I wonder if that's the same thing when it comes to this game. I think that might be a good idea, actually.
I can't believe nobody's asked that yet. You know what I mean? Because, I've just been thinking about it from my own perspective, because I am a crazy person, and like, I know once Conquest comes out, if I don't hit that infinity rank, I'm going to lose it. So I'm probably going to waste a lot of gold. I'm going to have to put a spending cap on myself personally. I'm going to have to.
The wording, I'm also there's a few things I'm confused about with Conquest mode. The first one being, the wording is, on the grand prize being the infinite border around your avatar. Is it around the avatar that you used during your run and only that avatar? But because the wording that made it sound like just for your avatar in general, you get the infinite. But here's the thing. If it is just in general, you can slap it on any of the avatars you want, then what's the point of the next seasons? Like,
no, they did answer. I don't know if it was in the Discord or what, but you can earn it multiple times for different avatars. So it will be specific to what you're using in there. Which is like, I'm going to have to make sure I'm using one that I want. You know what I mean? But I pretty much use the same one. To be honest with you, Brad, I've been torn lately because my avatar has always been Miles Morales. And now they just gave me 2 new ones. I got the one from the season pass. And then I bought that Spider-Man, the Miles Morales bundle that just came out. Yeah. So now I have that one too. So now I'm kind of torn because the one with the boombox is gangster. So
see, I'm torn because I almost always use the hood as my avatar because I like picking something that's like, as blank of a face as possible, without being the base one that I think is awful, the one Regis uses to this day still. But yeah, I like using the hood because it's just a blank thing. Also, I'm always in a hoodie. Like almost always, even being in Florida. So I'm like, yeah, that works for me. But here's the thing. It's not going to look good in Infinite Border. Like, what's going to look great in Infinite Border? Mooster Fantastic.
But I'll tell you this. The way that Spider-Ham one looks, I might be switching to Miles have to go. I might get Spider-Ham in there. But yeah, I'm pumped. I like that there's a new competitive aspect. You mentioned this on Twitter the other day. Snapping in ranked mode it's kind of ridiculous. Like there's a bunch of people who just snap all willy-nilly. Post infinite, it's just whatever. But I think the snap strategy, like if you guys want to listen to a great episode, listen to when Lambie was on the KM Best and Brendan's podcast. They talk a lot about how you have to pressure people. It is very much like poker when you're in battle mode. Like, because on ranked, since it's the only mode, people stay in. You're not shoving people out. Now in Conquest mode, there's stakes where like, I know if I snap, like if you're staying in, you have something to lose. Like not so much in the proving grounds, which is whatever, but in those higher tiers, like if you're staying in like a jackhole, like there are going to be some whales who are just constantly buying those tickets with gold. But I'm cool. Like, because I always talk about like, I have a little bit of a poker background and I used to go play limit poker and there'd be rich people there who just like, most people are going there with like $40. These people come in with like 1,000 and they would bet on everything, raise on everything, and you could farm off them. So like, I hope there's some people like that in Conquest mode. But I do think this is...
The question is like, is Conquest mode going to be encouraged to, like, I wonder if there's going to be, I wonder what's going to be more efficient, being a very skilled player within battle mode, Conquest mode, or being a whale who just tries to fucking speed run it by snapping every game as quick as possible and try to like play a high variance deck, something like a Hela, right? Where like you have the higher chance of getting huge 8 cube wins or forcing awkward retreats from your opponent and just keep snapping and then just flying. Like what's more efficient? Like genuinely, I'm curious because I wouldn't be shocked if it turns out that like just snapping every turn and playing something like a Hela deck is the way to fly through Conquest mode. It wouldn't shock me.
Yeah.
It really wouldn't.
Well, the thing is, you're going to have two different types of players, right? Like, how many whales are there? So, like, an average person, like me, I make a decent amount of money. I reinvest money I make off my YouTube channel into Snap, but even I'm going to have to put on the spending limit. But I'll tell you this, and I'm trying not to make this like a huge KM Best Snapshot podcast, but he said something that I think we all need to do. He said the whole community needs to get together and first turn Snap in the proving grounds, all right? Because the best strategy, if we're all being the efficient Marvel Snap players, all the Mr. and Mrs. Token efficiency people, only buying big bads and whatnot, you snap. Proving grounds is where you just farm as many tickets as possible. You fucking hoard that shit. You make a huge pile. So when you go in there, you just snap and get through those games as fast as possible. So the more of us who do that, the more of us can get tickets to then progress to the next levels. The next levels are when you start playing a little bit.
You can also, if you grind Proving Grounds over and over again and keep earning your 15 medals at a time, right? You can also spend medals on tickets, not just gold.
Yeah, exactly.
So you could grind the fucking Proving Grounds and just keep let's say, like, okay, if you could actually get to gold or infinite without ever actually playing silver or gold. Technically, if you play Proving Grounds over and over and over again, and you just keep winning one in a row, and you get your 15 medals, eventually you can spend the medals on your you earn the silver ticket off of Proving Grounds. You spend the medals and then get the gold ticket. And then you can spend the medals to get the infinite ticket.
I just pulled it up. So the gold ticket is 200 medals. And how many medals do you...
You get 15 in Proving Grounds.
You get 15 in Proving Grounds? Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, you get 15. So it's 200 gold. So what is that? 15 times 2 is 30 times 3 is 90. So what you need...
Like 12 wins, 13 wins.
Yeah, something like that. And think about how many games of Snap you play, right? So you can just grind that and just buy your gold tickets.
And there's no worry about losing ranks like that because it's technically in unranked mode. By the way, Proving Grounds is a great place to try out decks.
That's what they said too.
It's technically in unranked mode.
Jesus, I am so excited. I'm so excited. And sorry to plug this, but yeah, DC Dual Force is coming out for creators this weekend, and I was excited for that. But now I'm really excited.
Where's my beta key? Where is it?
I got you. I'm gonna have a ton. Like the guy, I showed him my Twitter poll, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna hook you up." I'm like, "Yeah, you better." Anyways, let's wrap this thing up. High Evolutionary. They're watching him. All right. Yeah. And like, I think
more so like maybe like fine tuned little things here and there. Like maybe like Cyclops instead of big? No, I think so. Like they're I'll tell you this much. They're not touching power and cost for any of these cards. They can't. They absolutely can't, because they are their own independent cards outside of High Evolutionary. You can't do that. So the only thing they can change is Wasp, for example. Instead of her hitting 2 things, she only hits 1 thing for the 0 cost.
Like, I don't know. Look at all the shit they started doing to the Thanos and Shuri decks. They didn't touch Thanos and Shuri for a long ass time. They touched every single card around it.
Yes, but that's fine. But that's different because, yes, Quinjet was played in different decks. These cards are played in different decks. But it's not like the stones themselves where one thing in Thanos, and then you could play them in different decks as a completely independently different thing in general. Like, if you want to be the kind of person to ever play like Surfer Patriot with Cyclops, and what if they decide High Evolutionary is too good, Cyclops should be like a 3/2 with this ability? Well, now you can't fucking play Cyclops anywhere outside of High Evolutionary because he's horrible. He's trash. The Thing is another example. The 4/6 is basically the epitome of like a 4 cost in terms of its power, right? If they bring him down to a 4/4, you'll never play him in things like Patriot and stuff like that. Now,
but what do you think they're gonna do? Like Cyclops is. I think people are starting to see the value of Cyclops.
Cyclops is the best one. It's not even close. Storm and then Cyclops is insane. Yeah, that's why the lockdown deck is so good. That is why it's so good, because you go Storm and put Cyclops behind it, and you just win that location.
Do you think when I was playing lockdown,
yeah, I think you might need to, and because like him hitting 2 every turn was really powerful. Because like even if I had Nebula in that lane in the Storm location, I usually lost that lane because they kept hitting shit every turn.
Yeah,
like the power I'd gain with Nebula, he just negated it instantly. So if I was tied or 1 power less than the Cyclops lane behind the Storm location and with a Nebula, it doesn't matter, because every 2 I gain, I lose 2. So, but then there's that fine line, because do you want him to be able to control a lane like that, or do you want him in like be neck and neck with a Nebula type of an effect, or do you want him to just straight up lose to a Nebula now?
Yeah, so
because a 1 cost countering a 3 cost instantaneously in the same deck does feel pretty bad.
Personally, I like from day one, I thought the Thing's ability is just by far the strongest.
It's a bit overtuned. Maybe it should only hit 2.
Yeah, but like the thing about the Thing is, I think more people are leaning more towards the Hulk route than the Abomination route, where you're not using the Thing as much too. So, like, if they did tweak the Thing, I don't know how much of an effect. Because in the Control one, I don't think people are really running.
No, the Lockdown one is just... No, we have to see if the Spider-Man change... This is why they're doing the OTA, right? They're seeing if the Spider-Man change is impactful enough to make a difference in the Lockdown version, which is the best one. So, I don't know. I think... I mean, I don't think you can do anything with Cyclops, right? Or, like, what if it's... okay? How about this? I have an idea for Cyclops. Keep his effect the same, but rather being always 2. What if you make it 1 for each energy you float?
I like that. That's
where
fair.
You can impact that, like that locked lane. Like, now here's the thing though. Here's a problem I can see arise with this, right? Let's say you go
turn 5.
Yeah, floating turn 5 with Sunspot, you gain 5 energy there, and you gain 5 power there, and you technically gain 5 power in the Cyclops lane, and then drop a Hulk. That might make it better. So that's it's really tough to say, because like on one hand you're like, yeah, you're forcing them to like take a turn off, but like in that style of deck, Sunspot is already played and they're fine with floating anyway.
So what do you think about Hulk? So, but one thing to take into consideration right
Hulk
now, there's a confirmed bug that Hulk is not. He's supposed to get additional power if you save energy on turn 6, and he's not. So, on average, he's been hitting about being a 620. He should be like a 22. Yeah. So he should be 2 more than that.
The max I think he can get is 22 right now, right?
Yeah.
I'm thinking 5 turns.
Now, like, if you only gave him +1, he's still the most powerful card, right?
Yeah, I think +1 is perfectly reasonable. And if they fix that bug, then you technically, it kind of evens out a little bit, because now if you float every single turn, right? He goes from a potentially well, I mean, look, he'd be an 18 would be the max, right? If you did every single turn.
Yeah.
Or if you on average 4 or 5, he'd be a 16 or 17, which means he's back into what Destroyer used to be, which was they got nerfed to a 15, right? So he beats Destroyer. He the only thing he doesn't beat is Infinite, which now technically he could beat an Infinite
or a fully decked out Thanos with all the stones, but how many people pull that off? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and also we don't see Thanos as much lately. Dude, I don't know. And I said this when after Glenn gave me his whole thread and we kind of went back and forth with like my questions. I said, dude, I appreciate you incredibly, like a high amount, and I don't envy you or anyone else in the play design team, because the balance that you guys have to maintain, and you're pulled in all different directions all at once, and all these different things you have to look at. And it's like, what lever do I adjust? What knob do I twist? It's like the butterfly effect of these changes. And we've already seen with Marvel Snap in general, how fragile, fickle, and malleable the meta is based on small changes. It is insane what this game can become. So I don't know what's going to happen. And we don't even know what's going to happen with fucking Galactus, because we're expecting a change in this next patch.
Well, my main concern with all this shit that Second Dinner's getting, like tweaking the most bought Series 5 card. You know what I mean? Like that's something I'm like,
I just had an epiphany.
What? People are going to find Second Dinner and riot?
No, we're expecting we are expecting a Galactus change for this next patch, most likely, right?
Yeah.
What happens when Galactus is changed to the point where maybe it's not as good anymore, or maybe it's like enough to like be similar to Thanos, where it's like playable but nowhere near as good as people think it was, or could be? Yeah. What deck do you think all those Galactus players go to?
Junk.
High Evo Lockdown.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like, am I insane in thinking that? Like, does that, because in my mind that feels like a perfect transition, because what other deck does something similar?
We'll see how Spider-Man kind of affects it, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but this is my worry. So this is why it's so hard to be a game designer, because if this goes back into my tech card video, but in a different sense, right? Because my worry of the tech card thing was this: look at Surfer. If Shadow King was available to everyone as a Series 3 card, right? And like he was in like 80% of collections, right? And then he was available. Would Surfer have gotten hit? Most likely, right? Surfer was overtuned by a little bit, right? But maybe it wouldn't have been. There's a chance, because Shadow King directly counters what that deck's trying to do. Like if you hit a Brood lane with Shadow King, you win that lane, right? Yeah. And
that's the whole reason I wanted him.
So, but here's the thing. Now let's think about it this way. Next week, let's say Galactus has changed and his play rate plummets, even if he's not as bad. Like, what if he's not nearly as bad? And then the play rate of High Evolutionary, because it's the next big bad that people want to make use of their tokens with, right? His play rate shoots up from all the drop of Galactus players, because I would say a good chunk of the percentage of people that leave Galactus play the other big bad to make sure that their sunk cost fallacy works out.
Yeah,
right? Okay. So now we see High Evolutionary tick up in percentage. Is that and then like the win rate goes up a little bit, cube rate goes up a little bit, or maybe stays around what we're seeing, and like, does that mean that the deck needs to be adjusted and changed, even if the Spider-Man? Because now we can't evaluate
that's
if the Spider-Man change. Did the Spider-Man change anything at all, or is it because Galactus got changed that people flock to this deck? How do you evaluate what the change was, and if what you did was a good thing? Because you have two conflicting changes right next to each other.
Yeah, it's again, I don't fucking,
because I don't want to see High Evo get nerfed, or cards in that deck get nerfed, if it didn't need to be. Yeah. Right? That's my biggest worry about in game design in general. It's like, and that's the problem with like digital games. Paper with Magic, it's a double-edged sword, right? On both sides. Digital games can respond faster to like, cards being too good and things like that, and paper usually can't, or like what they wait a bit longer. But on one side, paper is able to, digest the meta and watch it evolve and go through changes and over the course of like a few months, right? That's usually how long metas last. Like there's not very many bans.
Well, what would they do with Spider-Man? Would they revert him back? But
I'm not saying about the Spider-Man thing. I'm saying like, I mean, look, if they haven't reverted Red Skull back, they probably want to revert Spider-Man back, right? That annoys me.
Like, just put Red Skull back. Like, he didn't do anything wrong. Like put him at least back to a 213, maybe 214. That's
what was he like? What was the first
change?
Was it? No. I know he was the 515 plus 2, right? But when they did the plus 1, was it 13 or 14? 13. Because that was the one where he got plus he got the 7 difference and the 9 difference.
Yeah.
Where it was actually a buff.
Yeah, I think it was
Go to that.
Yeah, Jesus, when was that?
That was the initial change that they made, right? But that's just my worry, right? Like I don't want cards to like, or decks to change entirely based off of improper information.
Yeah. Was it this one? Balancing Act, Zabu, Silver Surfer. That was February. But while I'm checking this real quick, my boy Shadow King is in the top Silver Surfer deck now. That's pretty dope. That's pretty dope. Wow. Do they even have it? Well, or is it March? Was it March maybe?
When was Shuri changed? Was it May?
Maybe. Oh, here we go.
Was it
Red
April?
Skull 515. Yeah, so it was March. Red Skull went from a 515 to a 513. Enemy cards at this location get +1 power. Yeah, that's when it was.
Bring it back to that. I think that was a good change. I don't think. I mean, the 12 isn't too bad, but like I'd like to see Sauron, Shuri as a deck again, because that deck can't really run Cosmo and stuff like that. I like that deck quite a bit. Also, I think that deck's in a really good position. It's just underplayed. People are very quick with like the Toy Story, I don't want to play you anymore kind of thing, like the meme.
Yeah,
they're very quick to do that.
I did a video on the Shuri Kitty deck, right? And like, if you don't have your combo and then you just want to do a regular Shuri into Red Skull and Taskmaster, it just didn't feel as good. And it's like, you guys, you made it so you can't do all the things you could with Shuri anymore. The most you could do is put her behind armor, but someone could block it or do whatever. So yeah, it'd be nice because I think, Shuri's play rate went down a ton, obviously. I think Shuri's still a very good card, though. And now she's just underplayed. But yeah, so it'll be, I think these next couple months are going to be very interesting in Snap. If everybody calms down and quits, no, I'm going to quit the game. Give me more cards. So we'll see. We did this way longer than I thought we were going to do. Let's wrap this thing up, Brad. I love seeing your face, but I got stuff to do. So yeah, Brad, what are you working on aside from, you just put out some new videos? Tell the people about that, and what else?
Yeah, I did a video talking about, unfortunately, Lockdown as a deck, and that is my favorite deck in the game, breaking down the deck, how to play it, what key cards are, what key plays are. I'll have to eventually do an updated version of that at some point, going over Spider-Man and that change. But overall, the deck doesn't change too much. It's just the sequencing of Storm followed by Spider-Man, a separate lane, Professor X over the Spider-Man, and then Captain Marvel into flying to the Storm lane no longer does the thing you want it to do. But otherwise, I think the deck is still going to be very good, or good enough to at least climb. Otherwise, I'm looking forward to Conquest mode to make some content on that and see what's up with the meta and stuff. I might actually be wanting to do meta breakdowns for once in my channel, but focus on Conquest mode and which might involve me doing a lot of watching other streamers play Conquest, see what they're playing against, and
if we don't have stats, it'll be hard, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to come up with my own. Just kind of like observing.
I think this is what people are doing. I'm debating on it too. We'll see how it goes, because it also depends on if people want to watch it. But I have tried to at least say my channel is more towards the competitive aspect rather than just fun decks. I want to talk about decks that do good or decks that people are promoting and maybe I don't think they're as good. So yeah, I hope people are interested in Conquest mode. I think even if it's not as many views, if there's a dedicated community for it, almost like you've talked about with Magic, how there's different types of creators, like I'd be fine with that, because that's what I'm really into. I don't know if it's an unpopular opinion, but I just don't think ranked is competitive. I just don't. It's the only mode we have.
It's not.
And
it's not competitive at all.
Yeah, you get even though it says ranked, it's just like,
The very nature of best of one singleton in a card game is the least competitive thing you can do. Like if you were to tell me that you played Magic Arena and you hit Mythic, which is the equivalent of Infinite, which by the way, this is what they should do with Infinite. They should do what Magic Arena does. When you go into Mythic, you hit it and you can't revert back out of it like same thing with Infinite, right?
Yeah.
But it's a percentage. And you see a percentage, and it's like you're in the top 90%, and then like goes to the 80%. And as you climb, you get into a higher percentage. And once you get into like the very top percentage, it changes to a number of the top 500 players, and you can be the number. Like that's what they should do with Infinite, by the way. Second, if you were to tell me, like if you Chris were playing Arena, and you're like, hey Brad, I hit Mythic on Arena. I'm like, oh, what'd you play? And you're like, I played Tybalt's Trickery and Best of One. I'd be like, I don't give a shit. Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
No, I'm hoping this doesn't happen with Conquest, right? Because like every season with Infinite, like I don't think it's a good metric to say I hit, especially this season, but like I hit Infinite in a day. I hit it in 2 days. Like, not to knock any players, but I'm just not impressed by that. Like it should be something that's a grind. Like I'm hoping to hit Infinity and Conquest. Like you had to give it a couple tries. If you did it in one try, maybe you got lucky or maybe you're just dope. You know what I mean? I want something that really shows who the good players are, what the best decks are and stuff like that. So,
that's why I keep begging for best of 3 flat out sideboard in like a ranked mode. Cause dude, there's nothing more competitive than that. Having a best of 3. That's why, like most sports, the NFL is different. It's best of 1 in the playoffs because of just the nature of the game. But like hockey, basketball, baseball, they're all multi-game series where it's like more times than not, the better team will win that series because, that whole saying of like statistically speaking, if you were to play 100 games, this team is that one more is the better one on average, right? So that is a representation of it. And Conquest is that huge stepping stone to that type of competitive leaning that I want. But that little aspect of being able to make changes to your deck on the fly with a sideboard would flip everything on its head in the world of Snap. And I think that'd be perfect.
I'll tell you this. I get pissed off when you talk about the sideboard because I want it so bad ever since you told me what it was, and I don't think it's ever coming. I don't think it's a thing. Because like I said, I've
asked Glenn like 7 times. He won't answer me. Okay, here's the thing. I've asked him so many times, both in the thing like the Ask the Team where they just delete my comment. I've also asked him a few times in the creator chat. Because he's not answering me, makes me think they consider it. Come on. I
hope it's like a PC release thing when they have the wider screen and everything. But like I've said, I'm very into like the thinking and the strategy behind it.
Yeah.
And that adds a new component, right? Like one reason I'm not a huge fan of battle mode is because it's just, first off, unless you're playing in a tournament, it's just whatever. But when you, like the very first time I played battle mode, when it came out, I was like, oh, here with my son, I'm like, let's 1v1, whatever. And like 3 out of the 5 times we played, he just guessed and picked the perfect counter deck, right? And I'm just like, all right, well, I guess I just got to waste my time now. You know what I mean? Like, I just couldn't do anything. So
that's why the best thing to do with battle mode is like the drafting thing, like drafting a deck. Because then you're on an even playing field. You don't know what the other person's playing. And you're just like, if you happen to have counters, it's one thing.
I would do that too in Conquest mode or just even a casual, like just all these other modes, like drafting and stuff like that.
Yeah, limited.
You see who like good deck builders are on the fly. That tournament, the Twitch Rivals one that like they had 10 minutes and had guidelines for decks to build.
That was really cool.
It's such a cool aspect. Like
now here's the downside because I think that could be implemented in a better way. The Twitch Rivals thing with the regulations or whatever, the restrictions, because the way they did it with like you have 10 minutes to build this deck. I think that was the wrong way to do it. They should have, because they had the lineup ahead of time. They should have been like, here are the 5 regulations that we're going to provide for you for the rounds. In advance, you build the decks, because what ended up happening is when you have all these like-minded creators that play this game for like a living, or at least they play games like this for a living, where you're like, okay, you have to have this card in it and this card in it, and they all just ended up being the same exact deck for the most part. Sub 2 or 3 cards. So I think that was the problem I had with that in the Twitch Rivals thing. But otherwise, it's a cool idea.
I think, we could do a whole nother episode on that. Like, I think there's a few things. Like, I think something like that. I also realize I think I prefer, like, open deck lists, you know, if there's not going to be a sideboard, you know? Because, like, I don't know. We could talk about that another time, but hopefully...
You would love transformative sideboards, Chris. Like,
I know.
So like it's such a goofy thing in games to do. Most time you don't do it because it's cute. It's too cute. But in Snap, I think it could work a bit better because of the way the game is set up. Instead of it being like 60 card decks with copies of 4 cards each and a 15 card sideboard, if you have a 12 card deck and like a 4 card sideboard, like imagine old school Thanos, siding out Thanos himself and then bringing in like, you know, Thor, Jane, and like Wasp, right? And becoming just and then Infinite, and just becoming a regular like Lockjaw deck instead of like Thanos with the stones. Like that'd be so cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Or you could switch from like a Thanos ongoing deck to like a destroy package where you do Killmonger and Death and stuff like that.
And then you also might be countering stuff. Like if you see someone else playing a lot of like Sunspot, Nebula and stuff like that now, especially like against a high Evo deck, for example, then you could side out your Thanos package, like you said, for the ongoing stuff, bring in Killmonger and Death. And now you're like, I have a counter for Nebula and Sunspot now because that deck doesn't typically play armor.
Yeah, like do you see, like there's so many levels like that. Just it gets me hot and bothered. All right, we need to finish before I get more upset. So hopefully you're right and your optimism is maybe they're considering it. So we'll see.
I hope so.
But yeah, so where can the lovely people find you, Brad?
They can find me on Twitter at Bradcifer, BRADCIFER. Hey Chris, I think you have a Twitter, right?
Yep.
You have one, right? Okay.
At Bootman MSTZ. I was just checking my Twitter and oh my God, my thing just telling people to buy Darkhawk for God's sake. That's getting muted. Just all the people, you don't get it. Anyways,
my notifications don't work at all. I have to go back and check things to see what people are saying because I'll have a tweet where I get like 60 replies. And for example, my giveaway thing ended up going getting like 300 likes or something like that and like a shitload of replies. I didn't get a notification for a single one of them. My Twitter notifications just don't work.
That's weird. Sometimes
they haven't forever. Like
That's weird.
I only get the and I have the settings changed to where like it allows all notifications, but I think Twitter thinks my settings are just for mutuals because I'll get people that I follow and they follow me back for the most part. I'll get notifications from them if they like or interact with my tweets. But anyone else, I don't.
Huh. That's weird.
I think I like it that way, though.
Go tweet it, Elon. But you know what? One thing I will mention for anybody who's made it this far, just quick plug, DC Dual Force, I will be giving away a ton of keys this weekend. So I'll be streaming it Friday through Sunday. I think the window is 12 p.m. Eastern to 4 p.m. Eastern. And they're giving me anywhere from 500 to 1,000 keys to give away. It's a shit ton of keys. He's like, how many do you need?
Imagine if Marvel Snap did something like that?
Yeah. Oh, so by the way, you guys who think that we're just like fucking on Marvel Second Dinner's jock, something I was actually telling them is like, give us stuff to give away. Give us tokens. Like if we just each had a pack of like 5 to 10 packs a month of like 3,000 tokens that we can give away, like that's hundreds of people that get a free Series 4 card, you know? Or if we had access to I have so many ideas for that. Like I do think they have a big PR problem and there's a lot that you could do in marketing, just giving people a little something. And I don't know, hire me Second Dinner. But anyways, if you're interested in DC Dual Force, follow me on Twitter, subscribe to the YouTube channel where you're watching this. And when I'm streaming, I'll be giving some away. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
Thank you so much for listening. You guys are amazing. Thank you for listening every single week. That is a true statement this time around because you listened to us last week. You listened to us this week, and you're going to listen to us again fucking next week. I dare you to.
Yeah,
you
we're
really
going to be
need
talking about
to.
Conquest mode.
And the new patch in general, because there's going to be changes coming to that, and it's going to be such a... It's just, Jesus Christ, that's going to be an insane episode in general. We're going to have to bring on a guest at some point to talk about cool stuff.
We're working on it.
If you're a content creator for Marvel Snap and you want to come on the Snap on Ego podcast, especially next week when we're getting ready for the new patch and we're going to talk about it, please DM myself or Chris on Twitter or on Discord, because you can definitely see us on there as well, and let us know what you want to talk about or what you want to come on, because we got some other shit to talk about. But that's it. That's it for us. We love you. We appreciate you. You're the best. May your face be shined on and be gracious to, or whatever my pastor said when I was a kid, and do this thing in his favor. Amen. Bye-bye. Fuck off.
Peace.
We love you.